Chapter 113. Early the next morning, when Chen Guang woke up, the first thing he did was hide the cup in his pocket and sneak outside. That's right, his package had finally arrived. It was the cup cover he had carefully chosen online, the Holy Grail and Emperor of the Azure's new equipment, the Batman mug cover. The Hello Kitty cup cover was too cool. Chen Guang was worried that his life would be ruined by this cup cover, so he had to change quickly. Like a wisp of smoke, Chen Guang ran to the school's delivery room and rummaged through the mountain of strange goods for his bag. After that, Chen Guang ran to a corner of the school field like a thief and took out a cup from his clothes, intending to change the clothes for the colored glaze emperor. If you dare to peel off this old lady's outer layer of skin, this old lady promises that next time, I will crush every inch of your bones into dregs. If you ask me to help you with anything else in the future, don't even think that I will agree. Just as Chen Guang was about to happily lay down on the Hello Kitty cup cover, Lily's voice suddenly rang out in his head. His hand froze. Why? Why is this happening? How much do you love the color pink? The new one I bought looks even better. Emperor of the Azure chuckled. You're really forgetful. Have you forgotten what I helped you with yesterday, and what state I'm in right now? Anyway, you're on your own now. That's all I have to say. With that, Emperor of the Azure really didn't say anything else. Chen Guang looked at the little pink cup in his left hand, then at the cool and domineering Batman cup cover on his right. He couldn't use it, so he sighed and felt sorry for himself. Why is it that I'm always the one getting hurt? Sigh, forget it. I'll just endure it. The bitter days will come to an end sooner or later. I'll wait for the day when the bitter days are over and the sweet days come. I don't believe that you, Emperor of the Azure, can run around naked for the rest of your life for me to see. He returned to the cafeteria and was awkwardly eating breakfast when the second tribulation of the day suddenly came. It was a call from Zhuo Jingxi. Sure enough, it was as Sun Xiaoxuan and Bai Nyangzi had said. The newly appointed counselor was indeed in a bad mood. Her voice gave off a feeling of overflowing killing intent. Chen Guang, are you in school now? Chen Guang's scalp went numb. He thought to himself, big sis, you're our school's counselor after all. If you have something to say, then say it nicely. Aren't you afraid of scaring your students? Frankly speaking, Chen Guang did not really like this new counselor. He always felt that this person was too addicted to being an official. How could there be someone like you who insisted on having the whole class sign up for the school sports? Alright, seeing that you're a beauty, I'll reluctantly repay you. If you want to achieve something, fine. Our whole class will go crazy with you and play with you. But it was agreed that the most important thing was to participate. Even if I have the strength to win the championship, I have the freedom to choose whether I want to go or not. Students are born free. Do I even need a reason to withdraw from the competition? Do I need to explain it to you? You're my counselor, not my mother. You're too bossy. Even if the whole class is eliminated because of my withdrawal, you have no right to vent your anger on me. Hello, Teacher Zhua. I'm in school. I'm eating breakfast in the cafeteria. Are you looking for me? What happened yesterday isn't what you think. I'll give you a reasonable explanation. That's strange. I was clearly thinking very highly of Long Outyen just now. Why did the scene suddenly change after I said that? My willpower is too weak, isn't it? No wonder I forced Liuli to practice. Zhuo Jingxi, who was on the other side of the phone, took another deep breath and said, then come to the school building after breakfast. I'll wait for you in the office. Your class doesn't have any classes this morning, right? No classes. I'll be there in 15 minutes. 10 minutes later, Chen Guang stood in the corner of the school building, feeling a little conflicted. Should he remove the bandage or not? That was a problem. Lu Fei had applied medicine on it yesterday. According to the female pirate king, it would take at least 12 hours before he removed it. By then, the wound should have almost scabbed. Even if he removed it, it wouldn't tear the wound and cause it to bleed again. It was still too early to remove it now. It might cause the wound that hadn't scabbed to open again, and he would have to apply medicine and disinfect it again. But if he didn't remove it, he would have to spend a lot of effort to explain it to Zhuo Jingxi, and she might not really believe him. After all, his entire hand was wrapped in bandages, and it looked very exaggerated. There was even a cute bow on it. God knew if Zhuo Jingxi, the official fanatic, would think that he deliberately made a fake bandage to fool her. I always try to figure out this counselor with the greatest evil intentions. The old man is such a person. Otherwise, how can I always turn misfortune into blessing and succeed in every endeavor? In addition, Chen Guang was still thinking about what measures he should take to make this counselor feel the greatest guilt toward him. Of course, Chen Guang didn't deliberately want to set him up. He always did things with a clear purpose. Now that this new counselor had taken office, it looked like she was going to be serious and clean up the academic atmosphere. Chen Guang, the tyrant of a generation, felt a lot of pressure. That's right. He was the man who was known as the king of truancy. If he didn't deal with the counselor, how could he sleep easy and skip classes? From time to time, he would have a sports car to earn money. The burden of the whole family was on him alone. Forget about my useless father who took a dead salary. I'm already the god of racing with a daily income of 100,000. Of course, skipping classes was an easy thing to get addicted to. So, for the second half of the semester and the happiness of his senior year, Chen Guang decided to turn himself into a monstrous flood and first put out the 3 fires of the new counselor. I'll make her feel like she owes me, so that when she gets caught skipping classes in the future, she won't be used as a model. Remove it. Of course I have to remove it. And I have to remove it in front of her. Valiantly and energetically, Chen Guang charged into the school building. He held his head high and entered Zhuo Jingxi's office. When he entered, Zhuo Jingxi was lying on her desk, writing and drawing. Seeing Chen Guang come in, she put down her pen and stood up. Before she could speak, she saw the bandaged hand that Chen Guang had deliberately placed in front of his chest. She frowned. Chen Guang, what happened to your hand? Didn't Officer Wu ask me to assist in the investigation yesterday morning? It's about Pan Jiang drugging Sun Xiaoxuan. When I returned to school, didn't I see that it was only past 9 in the morning? The competition was in the afternoon. Teacher Zhuo, you know my family's special situation, right? So I thought that if I went out and ran for half a day, I could just come back half an hour before the competition started. But Chen Guang wanted to say something but stopped. He deliberately pretended to accidentally hurt his right hand and forced a smile on his face. Oh my, it hurts. Zhuo Jingxi's eyebrows furrowed even more. She thought to herself, student, I give you negative marks for this acting. But what? Zhuo Jingxi was patient and decided to continue to cooperate with Chen Guang's clumsy performance. But it was in the afternoon. I was planning to go back to school after I finished picking up the last customer. In the end, I encountered something at Fengquan Mountain. The situation at that time was so scary. A few young people were racing, and I saw the R8 rush into the water. Teacher Zhuo, you know that I can swim, so I went into the water to save people. As you can see, my hand was injured from smashing the glass when I was saving people. But at least no one died, and I saved them. As Chen Guang spoke, he stretched his hand forward. Chapter 114. Zhuo Jingxi couldn't help but smirk. She thought to herself, keep pretending, keep pretending. Let's see what else you can do. You really know how to boast. You even said the R8 crashed into the river. Why don't you just boast to the sky? It's true that you can swim, but your story is too unbelievable. I don't believe it. Yeah. Your hand is really badly injured. It's all wrapped up. Oh right, the bandage from yesterday should be changed today, right? I happen to have a medicine box and medicine here. Come over, I'll change the bandage for you. As Zhuo Jingxi spoke, she suddenly turned around and opened her locker. She actually took out a medicine box from inside. She was determined to be a successful counselor. Of course, she would consider the possibility of accidental injuries in the class. She had prepared this medicine box a long time ago. She didn't expect to be able to take it out today and expose this troublesome student's tricks. Zhuo Jingxi felt a little proud. However, Chen Guang hid his hand behind his back. Teacher Zhuo, let's forget about it. I was injured yesterday afternoon. It hasn't even been 24 hours. If I remove the bandage now, the wound will open up. As he said this, Chen Guang thought to himself, I really don't know if I should be sad or happy. If I change my way of thinking, there's actually this special effect. She really fell for it. From the purposeful cry of pain at the beginning to the exultant bragging about how he saved the person, Chen Guang deliberately put on a clumsy performance so that Zhuo Jingxi wouldn't believe him. I didn't expect her to have a medicine box. Originally, I was worried that a normal trick wouldn't be strong enough. Now, I made her take the initiative to remove the bandages. When she sees me bleeding, the guilt in her heart will definitely be unbearable. Just ask me why I'm so slippery. When Zhuo Jingxi heard Chen Guang's words, she really didn't believe him. Give me your hand. Even if it's the bandage from yesterday, it should have been changed a long time ago. Otherwise, the wound will fester if it's covered for too long. Quick, give me your hand. But the wounds are very deep and the speed of scab formation is very slow. I really can't remove it before the time is right. Chen Guang continued to hide his hands bashfully, his face full of embarrassment. Zhuo Jingxi saw how stubborn he was, and she was completely convinced that Chen Guang was lying. She then recalled the tragic scene of the entire class being wiped out yesterday, and then looked at Chen Guang's shameless face. She thought to herself, why is this student so terrible? He doesn't even have a sense of collective honor. Yes, your family is in trouble. If you have any trouble, just tell me. If you drive for an extra hour or two, you can earn a few more bucks. As long as you can win the championship, I will personally reward you with 1,000 yuan. What's the meaning of standing the whole class up without saying a word? Do you know how awkward it was for me to wait there foolishly with dozens of people to cheer for you, but I didn't even see your shadow? You're just as selfish, vile man. Don't even think about getting away with it today. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Zhuo Jingxi finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She took a step forward, grabbed Chen Guang's right hand, and was about to pull off his bandage. F***ck. If you pull it off like this, it won't be as simple as just bleeding. You're too much. Counselors should follow the basic rules even if they want to be unreasonable. During the last class, although this counselor was a little immature in public, he still performed decently. But today, in private, he became like this. You've really disappointed me as a student. Chen Guang was also furious. He pushed his left hand forward, not caring where it was. He just wanted to push Zhuo Jingxi away. Unexpectedly, Zhuo Jingxi let out a scream and took a few steps back with a red face. She covered her chest with one hand and looked like she was in pain. She widened her almond-shaped eyes and looked at Chen Guang with a rather complicated gaze. What happened just now? I only touched her lightly, and she suffered such a heavy injury. Could it be that I have unknowingly mastered the inner force that only second Uncle Wenwen has? Could it be that I'm a legendary martial arts genius? I can even master something as awesome as inner force without a teacher. That can't be right. If I remember correctly, second Uncle Wenwen had hit his inner force into my hand, which was why I killed him in one move. That's right, I must have been guided by second uncle's inner force and naturally understood the essence of inner force. It's just that this thing is mysterious after all. Before my inner force really exploded, I didn't feel it at all. I'm really a genius. I only got hit by second uncle who has inner force, and I already learned this terrifying supernatural power. Second uncle, you're really my benefactor. Although we're not teacher and student, we're actually teacher and student. Please allow me to call you the master in my heart. Chen Guang. You. How could you? Zhuo Jingxi finally spoke. She covered her chest with her hand and looked at Chen Guang with a face full of shame and anger. Ha! Chen Guang was suddenly pulled back to reality from his endless reverie. He turned his head to look at Zhuo Jingxi with a blank expression. Teacher Zhuo's expression didn't seem like she had suffered an internal injury. Her hand was protecting, damn. Could it be that when I pushed against her chest just now, I pushed against her pectoralis major? What a coincidence. The god of wretchedness is looking after me. At this time, Zhuo Jingxi's chest was pushed against by Chen Guang's left palm. The position of a woman was actually very fragile, and it was very easy to be hurt. Not to mention that her chest was much larger than an ordinary woman's. Therefore, she was embarrassed, resentful, and sore. Her tall body was slightly bent, and her fair face was flushed, making it even more conspicuous. A charming aura spread out from her body, sweeping over like the waves of the sea. Chen Guang looked at her a little longer and couldn't stand it anymore. But Chen Guang knew that the more it was at this time, the more he couldn't show an outstanding appearance. Otherwise, it would be over for him today. The god of acting. Save me. I'll beat that god of wretchedness to death first. Fiercely gritting his teeth, Chen Guang didn't care about Zhuo Jingxi's current state. Instead, he slammed the table fiercely. Teacher Zhuo. Zhuo Jingxi's heart skipped a beat. This time, she was dumbfounded. You're acting like a hooligan, and you still dare to hit the table. Chen Guang didn't give her a chance to speak. Instead, he suddenly stretched out his right hand and placed it flat, while his left hand rested on the end of the bandage. Fine, if you want me to remove it, I'll remove it. Yes, it's time to change the bandage. Thanks for your hard work. As he spoke, Chen Guang quickly pulled the end of the bandage. However, when it was time to remove the bandage and remove the gauze, his movements were not violent. Just kidding, I'm not stupid. Acting is one thing, but I don't really want to play around. However, when Chen Guang was halfway through removing the bandage, he could already see the dried brownish red. Just now, when Zhuo Jingxi snatched Chen Guang's hand, she seemed to have really opened up the wound a little. Beside the dried blood, there really was a bright red that had just seeped out. Zhuo Jingxi's expression changed in an instant. He was really injured. He wasn't pretending. Chapter 115. Chen Guang. Don't unwrap it. It's too early. Zhuo Jingxi said and wanted to stop Chen Guang's hand. But at this time, Chen Guang finally summoned the god of acting. How could he stop just like that? Accept my justice. Have a taste of the long-lost ultimate skill of Jianghu, the secret spirit technique. Guild kill. Chen Guang turned around and blocked Zhuo Jingxi behind him, but his hands didn't stop moving. He said, Teacher Zhuo, didn't you say it already? It's already past night, and it's time to change the bandages. Thank you, I really thank you. It'll cost more to go to the school hospital. Just as Chen Guang had expected, Shuo Jingxi was so embarrassed that her eyes widened. She was finally sure that Chen Guang wasn't lying, and that he really was injured in order to save someone. As a teacher, her heart was too dark and dirty. My mind was only thinking about the so-called collective sense of honor, and all I could think about was showing results in the school sports meet. In fact, it was just me being too impatient and wanting to earn a good performance as soon as possible. My impatience blinded my heart, and I actually doubted Chen Guang for no reason. Compared to him, I'm actually the real selfish and despicable person. I was crazy enough to try to tear off his bandages. Am I crazy? He must have been anxious just now and was afraid that I would tear his wound, so in a moment of desperation, he accidentally touched my chest. He didn't even notice it himself. Shuo Jingxi thought this in her mind while trying to turn to Chen Guang to stop him. Of course, Chen Guang wouldn't let her have her way. Shuo Jingxi circled around him, and he kept turning around as well, maintaining the heavily injured Teacher Zhuo behind him. He said, "Teacher Zhuo, I'm already halfway through dismantling it. I can't just tie it up again, right? Don't be like this. It'll really tear the wound." Shuo Jingxi shouted. She wanted to reach out to grab Chen Guang's hand, but she was worried about his injuries and didn't dare to really grab him. She continued to circle around Chen Guang's back with all her might. "Teacher Zhuo, I'm your student." Of course, a student has to believe in a teacher. "It's already scabbed, it's definitely healed." As he spoke, he had already removed the last layer of gauze. Needless to say, it really hurt when he pulled it like this. However, it didn't matter. The scar had already grown halfway. As long as he was careful when he tore it open and didn't tear it too much, he could disinfect it again and apply medicine again. It wouldn't affect the speed of recovery. Shuo Jingxi, who was behind him, finally saw this scene from the side. She saw that he was really tearing open the last layer bit by bit. She could even see fresh blood oozing out from the wound. There was also a large, bright red scar. It was a ghastly sight. Shuo Jingxi was scared out of her wits. Perhaps she was possessed, or perhaps she was overly guilty, causing her to completely lose her composure. She was anxious. She actually hugged Chen Guang's back from behind. She hugged him fiercely. "Chen Guang. Teacher Zhuo apologizes to you. I'm sorry. Don't pull it anymore, okay? Okay." On the other side, Chen Guang was carefully tearing open the last layer of gauze. He was also very nervous as he controlled his strength. He didn't want to pull too hard. He never would have thought that Teacher Zhuo actually had a lost secret technique. Ultra Shockwave Strike. Secret Freeze Strike. Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't hold on anymore. My back. Heavy injuries. Feeling the pressure of the secret abundance on his back, it was like two huge mountains. The shockwave covered the sky and the earth, sweeping towards him. It was abnormally fierce. Shuo Jingxi was tall and much more voluptuous than ordinary people. Being hugged from behind like this, the bouncy Miss Mountain almost sent him flying. That was not all. She even tried to stretch her hand from behind to the front to stop Chen Guang's left hand. This continuous movement made the shockwave even more like waves, wave after wave, wave after wave. For a moment, Chen Guang's entire body felt as if it had been electrocuted. He felt limp and numb. In the depths of his mind, a huge beast came out of its cage. His body suddenly stiffened and he couldn't control it at all. The old man's Qilin arm was completely out of control. Rip! His left hand also stiffened. Then, his body suddenly pulled to the side. This is bad. Grenade throwing Lu. Didn't you say to pull gently and slowly? My hand. F***ck, what a big cut. A bunch of cuts. Doctor. This time, my injury has really worsened. Pain. 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 Teacher Joie, why didn't you follow the script? You tricked me. This time, Chen Guang finally got what he asked for and courted death to the extreme. He really just wanted to use this opportunity to naturally ascend to the throne of the King of Truancy in the future, but he didn't expect that he would play it out of hand. He completely didn't expect that Zhuo Jingxi, as a teacher, would actually use such a despicable and shameless killer move in broad daylight. He threw himself forward and first broke free from Zhuo Jingxi's embrace. Then, with a sullen face, Chen Guang raised his right hand and turned around. He pouted and said, Teacher Zhuo, see. I'm really hurt. Hurry up and stop the bleeding for me. Zhuo Jingxi looked at Chen Guang's hand and her face turned pale with fright. That bloody wound, that fresh red blood that kept coming out, had already flowed down Chen Guang's fingers and onto the ground. Every drop of blood that fell onto the ground was like a knife cutting into Zhuo Jingxi's heart. I really don't deserve to be a teacher. Zhuo Jingxi was so remorseful that she almost wanted to die. Her eyes suddenly became hazy and tears flowed out. Chen Guang, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Teacher Zhuo has let you down. Slap me, I feel terrible in my heart. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. Fine, today was really a day of bad luck. A man's blood, a woman's tears, the two great poisons of the world, were both alive. To be honest, I really didn't want to make you cry. Things really turned out this way. Man proposes, God disposes. It's just a coincidence. Teacher Zhuo, don't cry. It's my hand that shook when I took it off. It's not your fault. Hurry up and help me stop the bleeding. Even if you want me to hit you, you have to re-bandage it before I hit you. Otherwise, if I flung my hand like this, wouldn't the wall be covered in oil paintings? Chen Guang said quickly. His current appearance only looked miserable. It hurt when he took off the bandage, but after the pain, he didn't feel anything anymore. The blood on his hand looked scary, but the medicine that Lu Fei used yesterday was really not simple. The scab formation was better than expected. After that stream of blood, it slowly stopped bleeding. Old Master Chen Guang was also someone who had gone through mountains of knives and seas of fire in the momentary sea. He had seen countless big scenes and had lost count of how many times his head had flown away. With just a little thought, he calmed down and hurriedly comforted Zhuo Jingxi. When Zhuo Jingxi heard this, she lifted her sleeves and wiped the tears from her eyes. Then, she nodded heavily and said, Yes. Quickly sit down, I'll help you bandage it and stop the bleeding. Chapter 116. Seeing Zhuo Jingxi busy herself around him with red eyes, Chen Guang actually felt quite embarrassed. Today's performance had gone to such an extent that the situation was a bit out of control. He didn't know if this incident would cause any psychological trauma to Teacher Zhuo. It was better to try to say something to remedy the situation, otherwise it would be too embarrassing. Teacher Zhuo. Chen Guang called out softly. Zhuo Jingxi carefully applied medicine to the wound on his finger as she softly responded, Go ahead, I'm listening. Listening to her sweet and greasy voice, which still had a slight tremble after crying, Chen Guang sucked in a breath of cold air. Sis, you've changed so much that I can't take it anymore. Teacher Zhuo, don't blame yourself too much. My wound just looks scary. The group of youngsters who drove yesterday were second-generation rich kids. I don't know what kind of powerful medicine they gave me, but it's worth a lot of money. My recovery is better than I thought. I reckon that after you change the bandage this time, I won't need to be bandaged anymore after 3 to 5 days. Chen Guang was speaking the truth. He had a lot of experience with wounds. Yes, he had trained in the sea of fleeting time. Shuo Jingxi flirtatiously rolled her eyes at him. Do you think your teacher doesn't feel guilty enough? Remember, if you change the bandage today, I'll change it for you after school tomorrow afternoon. Chen Guang waved his left hand repeatedly. No need, really. Shuo Jingxi didn't let him talk nonsense. Her hands didn't stop moving as she said, if you really don't want teacher Zhuo to die of guilt, then listen to me. Just treat it as you're doing a good deed, okay? Chen Guang sighed. He was a little touched. Shuo Jingxi's guilt couldn't be faked. If she really was a despicable official addict, she wouldn't really feel guilty to this extent. Although she was a bit impatient and greedy for achievements, she was indeed a good person deep down. Chen Guang couldn't help but feel a little curious. He didn't know why a person like her would be so eager to achieve something in her career, even going so far as to make her whole class sign up for the school sports meet, and do something so ridiculous that she cared so much about her own swimming competition. Teacher Zhuo, actually yesterday Chen Guang wanted to tell the truth. Shuo Jingxi waved her hand. Don't talk about what happened yesterday anymore. The more you talk about it, the more upset I feel. In short, let bygones be bygones. I will also reflect on myself. Don't worry, I will definitely be like Teacher Shen and become a qualified counselor. I won't trouble you anymore. I'm your counselor, and I'm here to help you solve all the problems in your studies and life. What I did before was wrong. Chen Guang's mouth was wide open. The truth couldn't come out. Forget it, so be it. Actually, I'm quite regretful. I think that if I continued to participate in swimming competitions, our class would indeed have a champion. That brat Dong Tao wouldn't be my opponent. In the pool, I would only need 2 fingers to crush him. Next year, I'll fight for a bunch of championships for you. I'll sign up for all the swimming events. Chen Guang grinned. Shuo Jingxi blushed and looked at him. You're still making fun of me. No. I really didn't. Chen Guang was very serious. All right. I've wrapped it up. I've even restored the bow for you. The one who wrapped it for you yesterday must be a beautiful girl with nimble hands. My bow isn't as pretty as hers, and she wrapped it up better than me. Shuo Jingxi stood up and rubbed her palms. She was a little dissatisfied with her own artwork. Chen Guang cursed in his heart. It was hard to say whether Lu Fei was nimble with her hands, but the power of the calluses on her hands was really not to be underestimated. Standing up, Chen Guang prepared to leave. Shuo Jingxi said, "Wait a minute. There's something I have to tell you. I called you here today mainly for this matter. Yesterday's competition, okay, it was also one of the main reasons, so I won't be so stubborn." Chen Guang asked curiously, what's the matter? Shuo Jingxi was about to say it out loud when her office door was suddenly pushed open. A middle-aged fat man with a red face walked in from outside. Chen Guang recognized him. This fat man was the dean of the academy's discipline department, Wang Ren. Regarding this grandson, the rumors and stories in the entire academy added up could almost be written into a social realistic novel that was 1 to 200,000 words long. If it was not necessary, Chen Guang really did not want to see him. He did not expect to bump into him in Teacher Zhuo's office. "Xiao Zhuo, come to my office. I have something to tell you." Fatty Wang first scanned Shuo Jingxi's office suspiciously. He stared at Chen Guang for a long time until he saw the medicine box on the table and the bandages on Chen Guang's hands. Only then did he show a look of relief and continued, "Xiao Zhuo, what's wrong with this student of yours? Did he get into a fight?" Chen Guang was about to open his mouth to scold this grandson. "You're the one who got into a fight. Your whole family got into a fight. However, Zhuo Jingxi suddenly blocked in front of him. She quietly stretched one hand behind her back and desperately gestured to Qin Guang. On her face, however, she squeezed out a smile for Fatty Wang. Director Wang, my student acted bravely at the scene of the car accident yesterday and accidentally injured his hand. I just finished wrapping it up for him. Fatty Wang was just saying it casually. Hearing Zhuo Jingxi's explanation, although it was not very believable, he still had other plans today. There was no need to harp on this matter. He could only keep a straight face. All right, I'll wait for you in my office. With that, he left. Zhuo Jingxi turned her head and glanced at Qin Guang. I'm going to Director Wang's office. Wait for me for a few minutes. Don't bother with him. I'm afraid you guys know his reputation better than I do. Qin Guang sat on the metal chair in Zhuo Jingxi's office. It's not that I want to brag to you, but don't be fooled by his fat appearance. If he dares to say another cheap word, I'll only need 10 seconds to beat him up. Pfft. What kind of bad temper is this? And you're still a student. If you continue like this, I'll call your parents. Zhuo Jingxi, who was about to open the door and leave, heard that and stomped back. Finally, she put on the airs of a teacher. She put her hands on her hips and spoke to Qin Guang in a condescending manner, spittle flying everywhere. On the other side, Fatty Wang started to rush her again. Zhuo Jingxi did not dare to delay. She only gave one more order and turned to leave. Qin Guang wiped his face. Fortunately, Teacher Zhuo's breath was fragrant. It was just that Fatty Wang. There was something fishy going on. This did not require a man's intuition. In such a big school, there were too many people who knew what kind of person Fatty Wang, this grandson, was. Qin Guang did not want to see him because he was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and want to beat him up. He did not brag to Zhuo Jingxi. Among the students in Qin Guang's batch, there were probably many who had the same idea as him. Once they got their graduation certificates, they would go and block Fatty Wang's way at night. Chapter 117. Everyone didn't hate Wang Ren, but they hated him. Regarding his past, it was one thing for Wang Ren to be a sharp and unkind person, always nitpicking. After all, in this world, there weren't many head of student affairs who were well liked by the students. This was simply a position that was born to be hated. But this was still not the most hated and reviled thing about Wang Ren. Qin Guang was certain that in the entire country, Wang Ren's hatred could be ranked in the top 3 of all the heads of student affairs. Rumor had it that he seemed to have some connections with the higher-ups of the school. Even though he didn't have any academic qualifications, he had entered the school many years ago and became an administrative staff, slowly climbing his way up to the position of the head of student affairs. In the student community, the deepest impression of Wang Ren wasn't his harshness, but his lust. From time to time, there would be rumors of him entering the school early in the morning with someone, or someone hooking up with him in a corner. Sometimes it was a young female teacher, and sometimes it was a student. Other than that, this fellow also had a way of making money. In the past few years, there were others in his class who had given Wang Ren tens of thousands of yuan. Just in Qin Guang's class, there was more than one such person, not to mention the dozens of classes in the entire academy. His reason for asking for money was simple, but it was actually embarrassing. The head of student affairs was in charge of the final step in dealing with cheating in the entire academy. If he suppressed it, it would be an internal matter of the academy, and it would be easy to deal with. Whether it was a demerit or a warning, it was all within the scope of control. When the time was up, or if it was related, the punishment could be removed in advance, and no stain would be left. Other than the taboo method of cheating, such as substituting for an examiner, Wang Ren had the right to directly intervene. In his hands, the same incident of cheating could have a big or small impact, and the punishment could be light or heavy. It could even be nothing. However, once it was reported by him, even if it was just a finger-sized slip of paper during an examination, he could make it a serious violation of the rules and record a demerit. There was no clear standard for dealing with cheating in the first place. Even if you only brought a small slip of paper, Wang Ren could say that when you were caught red-handed, your attitude was extremely bad, you talked back to a teacher, and you didn't repent. This was a heavy punishment. The black and white of the matter were in his mouth. Once the school's punishment was imposed, it wouldn't be easy to get rid of it. Even if the punishment could be removed, the school would still conduct an inspection process. Unfortunately, the inspection authority was still in Wang Ren's hands. As for changing exam papers, it was even more likely to result in immediate expulsion. But what was strange was that no matter how many people privately spread rumors about Wang Ren's dirty and scandalous deeds, there were even a number of people who sent anonymous reports to the school leader's mailbox. However, he was like a roly-poly doll, still standing tall in his position as the dean of the academy's student affairs department, happily using his relatives to support him, counting his money, sleeping with his or other people's women. He had too many things to deal with, but what really made Chen Guang hate him so much was not the above, but the incident that happened in the academy last year. There was a girl from the countryside. Her family was very poor, but her grades were very good. She was also very motivated. Although she was not particularly beautiful, she belonged to the kind of cute and obedient type. She was quite popular in the academy. But later, she seemed to have been caught helping someone cheat. She seemed to have been handing someone a note. After that, she did not receive any serious punishment, but she broke up with her boyfriend. The matter was quiet for a few days, until her boyfriend finally revealed the matter to the entire academy. This girl, indeed, had been slept with. She had not seen much of the world, and was not calm enough. That night, her boyfriend could not get through to her phone, and the next day, he fiercely questioned her. She thought that the man she deeply loved would forgive her, and would understand her pain and difficulties. She admitted most of the matter, but firmly denied that it was Wang Ren who did it, because she was afraid that the boy would impulsively kill Wang Ren. She also remembered Wang Ren's words when he threatened her, and even tried to link the possibility to all the leaders she could think of. The girl hoped that her boyfriend would understand. Unfortunately, a man's dignity was not so easy to erase, and the two broke up at lightning speed. The depression in the boy's heart accumulated day by day, until he could not help but expose the matter on the school forum. In an instant, the matter blew up. All the students in the school were discussing the matter. As the victim, no matter where she went, people would point fingers at her. Although the school reacted quickly and used the fastest speed to completely erase the matter from the school forum, it could not change the fact that the girl's reputation was completely ruined. Then, the girl dropped out of school and returned home. Later, it seemed that the matter also spread in her hometown. After that, the girl drank an entire bottle of pesticide in her hometown and passed away. In the end, the boy was beaten up very badly. Many people felt that this guy had gone too far, and that he had to bear a lot of responsibility for the girl's death. From time to time, the boy in the academy and other academies would take turns to teach this bastard a lesson. Chen Guang and the others had also beaten him up, and in the end, the boy also dropped out of school. From the beginning to the end, the girl had never admitted that this matter had anything to do with Wang Ren, although everyone knew that the real murderer was most likely Wang Ren. However, the girl had chosen the weakest and most humiliating way to deal with the matter. She had even decisively ended her own life, bringing the final truth to the bottom of the earth. No one knew what kind of threat she had received, but to her, it seemed that revenge would not change her only choice, and that was death. No matter how suspicious people were, there was no evidence, so the matter was left unsettled. No matter how lively the matter was, it would eventually be erased by time. Wang Ren was still the same Wang Ren, still the arrogant head of the discipline department, but he seemed to be a little more restrained. Recently, he did not collect money, and there seemed to be no more rumors about him with any girls. Not many people knew about the story between him and the female teacher. As long as he did his job well, it would not be so easy for people to find out. The reason why Chen Guang did not like Wang Ren so much was not because he had any feelings for the girl back then. He did not even say a word to the girl from the same academy. It was purely because he felt that it was unfair. However, in the end, there was no evidence. Although Chen Guang was unhappy, he still had his own life. Before he could manage the world, he had to manage himself first. It was what happened today that brought back Chen Guang's fading memory of that scumbag Fatty Wang. Just now, before Zhuo Jingxi went out, she briefly showed a hazy expression, but it did not escape Chen Guang's sharp and penetrating eyes. Could it be that after a year, this bastard had begun to rise from the ashes again? Was he starting to get cocky again? What did he want to talk to Teacher Zhuo about? Why did Teacher Zhuo have that kind of expression? Something was wrong. Just as he was worrying, after a few minutes, Zhuo Jingxi came back with a livid face. Her face was so dark that it could drip water, and it was extremely ugly. Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat, and he could not help but ask, Teacher Zhuo, what's wrong? What did Fatty Wang say? Chapter 118. Zhuo Jingxi's face showed a look of distress. She opened her mouth to speak but stopped. Finally, she shook her head. It's nothing. Don't ask too much. Chen Guang was even more suspicious. He thought to himself, Sis, your acting skills are as bad as mine. If I'm fooled by you, then am I, Chen Guang, still a normal person? Teacher Zhuo, didn't you just tell me that there was something else? Chen Guang knew that she probably wouldn't say it if he asked her directly, so he deliberately changed the topic. When she was caught off guard, it would definitely be effective. Zhuo Jingxi nodded. She picked up the cup on the desk and drank some water. She calmed down and said, I almost forgot if you didn't mention it. It's like this. I know about your family situation. For the past 6 months, you've been a student, studying and earning money. It's really hard on you. Chen Guang shook his head. There's nothing hard about it. Every family has its own problems. Many people at my age are already working on construction sites. Compared to them, I'm nothing. Zhuo Jingxi was amused by his carefree manner. She slightly forgot about the unhappiness in Fatty Wang's office. You're quite open-minded. Shrugging his shoulders, Chen Guang replied, That's life. How can everything go as one wishes? Zhuo Jingxi couldn't help but pat his shoulder. You're young, but you have quite a lot of philosophy. Chen Guang chuckled. Teacher Zhuo, you're only a few years older than me. This life, it's like being. Stop. You stop right there. You don't have to say the rest of the sentence. I know how you little boys talk. I've led you astray again. It's like this. Considering your family's special situation, I plan to reserve the first-class scholarship for the next semester, which is your senior year. It's a lot of money. It's a whole 10,000. Zhuo Jingxi exclaimed in her heart that it was a close shave. She had almost been led into a ditch by this brat. Fortunately, she was on guard. It would not be so easy to take advantage of her teacher verbally. She had completely forgotten that when she and Chen Guang were tugging at each other just now, he had taken all the advantages, let alone taking advantage of her verbally. On the other hand, Chen Guang was in a difficult position. The scholarship had nothing to do with him, the king of truancy. Teacher Zhuo, as far as I know, there are only 5 first-class scholarships in our entire 3rd year, but there are a total of 14 classes in the same year. This isn't something that I can get just because I want to, right? I think we should just forget about it. Chen Guang beat the drum of retreat loudly. It was not that he did not love money, but he knew how difficult this matter was. Shuo Jingxi put on a straight face, as if she had already seen through him. Come on, I know you don't like to study. But at the end of the term, you have to do well on your exams. As long as you can get more than 85 points in every subject, I will snatch this first-class scholarship back for you even if I have to. That's settled then. Oh, right, you guys are about to take the CET for exam, right? You have to pass the CET for exam. If you want a sports car to earn money, I won't interfere with this matter, but you can't fall behind in your studies. There are so many people in the class, so I will only apply for your first-class scholarship. Do as you see fit. Chen Guang's eyes widened. Big sister, without saying a word, you just pushed me into the fire. The old man went to be the god of racing instructor and earned 100,000 a day. For your 10,000, I have to drag every subject from barely passing to above 85 points. This investment and output are not proportional at all. To be honest, Teacher Zhua, this is a bit difficult. I'm afraid I can't do it. I will definitely pass the CET for exam, but just getting 85 points in every subject is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Chen Guang said truthfully. Shuo Jingxi's pair of beautiful eyes shone as she looked at him. Aren't you quite capable? Why are you giving up before you even try? This is different from the Chen Guang I know. Chen Guang sighed. Do you know the sorrow of a bad student? How can you understand the loneliness of a bad student? Don't give me that bullshit. Oh, right, you are the famous Qin Hui in our school who kneels in front of the CET for exam. How can you suddenly guarantee that you will pass the CET for exam? Shuo Jingxi was curious about this matter because it reminded her of what that damn fatty Wang Ren said just now and gave her another headache. Chen Guang's mouth was wide open. Damn it, when did I become the Qin Hui who kneels in front of me? Which immoral son of a bitch gave me this nickname? Bei Nyangxi, who was lying in bed sleeping, sneezed violently. His snot shot straight into the wall like a bullet. Ah. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Anyway, I can swear to the heavens that if I don't pass the CET for exam this time, I will go to Mount Zhongnan to be a Taoist priest. Oh, right, you really have to be careful of that bastard Wang Ren. He's so cheap. If he dares to make any unreasonable requests of you, don't be afraid. Tell me, and I will bring the whole class, no, the whole school to support you. I don't believe that guy can overturn the heavens. As Chen Guang spoke, he suddenly changed the topic to Wang Ren. Teacher Zhua, tell me, what did he do to you just now? We know that bastard's tricks. When Zhuo Jingxi heard this, her heart was moved. She finally relented and told him what happened. What? That bastard. Isn't he making things difficult for me? How could he do that? I'll go beat him up. After listening to Zhuo Jingxi's story, Chen Guang propped himself up from the chair, slammed the table, and pretended to go to Fatty Wang's office. Zhuo Jingxi hurriedly pulled him from behind. Don't mess around. If I knew you were so impulsive, I wouldn't have told you. Although this is troublesome, it's also an opportunity. Chen Guang stopped in his tracks. F***ck, I just slapped his right hand. Don't worry about the details, just smash the can. Teacher Zhua, you really think highly of our classmates. How is this an opportunity? We're only third-year students, and he actually wants you to bring us to have an academic exchange with a student group from MIT. Yes, the other party is also an undergraduate student like us, but how can this be the same? What kind of school is that? MIT. Besides, in our entire class, there isn't a single person who can communicate fluently in English, right? Not to mention this kind of academic exchange with professional jargon. Isn't this making things difficult for us? How are we supposed to communicate with others? With Chen Guang's temper, he had even forgotten about this hidden expert of his. Shuo Jingxi sighed, but did not say anything. This bastard, he even said that all of our class signed up for the school sports. What kind of positive collective performance is this? What kind of academic exchange opportunity was specially assigned to our class? This is pure nonsense. He's making things difficult for you, Teacher Zhua. He wants to make you fall. Chen Guang slammed the table again, but this time he used his left hand. How could I fall twice in the same pit? Chapter 119. Shuo Jingxi saw that he was excited again and quickly said, Chen Guang, calm down. Forget it, the matter has already been settled, and the leaders have already agreed. What else can I say? I'll just bite the bullet and do it. Seeing her like this, Chen Guang was helpless. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. If it was before today, he wouldn't have cared so much about Shuo Jingxi. However, now that he had taken advantage of her, he felt that this teacher was really a good person. She was gentle and considerate to him, and she even wanted to help him get a scholarship. Just now, he had made her cry, and he felt that he owed her. Now that Chen Guang had personally witnessed Wang Ren's underhanded move, it wasn't hard for him to figure out the ins and outs of this matter when he recalled the fatty's vicious reputation. That grandson must have seen that Shuo Jingxi was a bit eager for success at work, so he planned to use his position and power to threaten Teacher Zhua and try to make her submit. To put it bluntly, he wanted to use the unspoken rules. After killing that girl, this guy had restrained himself for a whole year, and now he finally couldn't hold it in anymore. It was no wonder. After all, Shuo Jingxi was indeed a bit too beautiful. In addition, she was a new counselor who had just graduated and was very addicted to being an official at work, eager to achieve results. Flies don't bite seamless eggs. With Wang Ren's audacity, of course he would be tempted and take action. I'm going to take care of this. Fatty Wang, you can jump all you want. One day, I'll beat you up so badly that your whole family won't recognize you. Chen Guang still didn't know what would happen in the future, but he really couldn't run away from today's matter. Thinking that Shuo Jingxi was about to suffer a big loss, the more Chen Guang thought about it, the angrier he got. Finally, he glared angrily. The other party is a world-famous top university. How can they send a small fry to our country? We've messed things up, and we're going to embarrass ourselves internationally. This should at least be the graduate school's business. It's not too much to send a PhD student for an exchange. If he sends you to our class, he'll be hoping that you'll embarrass yourself and mess up the academic exchange with MIT. It'll be a huge disaster for you as a counselor. Shuo Jingxi finally opened her mouth and sighed, it is indeed so. But what could I do? Sun Xiaoxuan is the one with the best English scores in the class, right? I've talked to her before. She has no problem with simple daily conversations, but in an academic exchange, her level is far lower. Even I am not qualified to do so. Moreover, there is no reason for me, a teacher, to be responsible for the entire academic exchange between students. After she finished speaking, she frowned again. From the moment Wang Ren announced this matter in front of her, the outcome was more or less determined. It would definitely be messed up, and her image in the eyes of the academy's leaders would definitely take a nosedive. Teacher Zhua, I'm afraid this matter isn't that simple, right? Wang Ren wouldn't cause trouble for you for no reason. Tell me the truth, did he threaten you before? Chen Guang finally asked about this matter, his eyes flashing with a dangerous light. Shuo Jingxi turned her face away, unwilling to talk more. No, no, Chen Guang's face darkened. It's useless even if you don't admit it. I can guess it. Everyone can guess it. Fatty Wang is that kind of person. Teacher Zhua, you're muddle-headed. Your avoidance and forbearance reminds me of someone. Don't tell me you don't know what happened to that girl last year. Zhua Jingxi's body trembled, but she still didn't turn her face away. She only nodded slightly. Yes, I know. Chen Guang felt a sense of sorrow for her misfortune and anger at her lack of ambition. He was secretly glad that he hadn't misjudged her. Although Zhua Jingxi was addicted to being an official, she didn't lose her principles. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Forbearance will only make this kind of evil person take a mile after taking an inch. It will only make him crazier. Do you think that if you reject him once, there won't be a second time? A third time? Sooner or later, you'll be forced into a dead end by him. When that time comes, what will you do? Chen Guang said as he carefully looked at Zhua Jingxi's face from the side. Unexpectedly, the struggle on Zhua Jingxi's face only lasted for a few seconds. What replaced it was a sense of relief. She laughed. If it really has to be like that, I'll just quit being a counselor. Do you think I'll be taken advantage of by Fatty Wang? As she spoke, she laughed out loud, as if she had really let go of a knot in her heart. Chen Guang also laughed. See? You still won't admit it. I understand even if you don't say it. I didn't say anything. Sigh, don't do anything stupid. Although it hurts me to lose my job, you're different from me. You're still a student. If you get expelled from school, it will ruin your life. Zhua Jingxi started to worry for Chen Guang again. Chen Guang shook his head. Of course. Don't worry, I'm not stupid. But I, Chen Guang, will never suffer such losses. We don't know what other dirty tricks he has up his sleeve, and we can't care about it. Of course, I won't suffer such losses, and I can't be such a despicable person. But for this academic exchange, you don't have to worry at all. I, Chen Guang, will support you. He, Wang Ren, can never have his way. I can't watch the tragedy repeat itself. Old Master Chen Guang finally thought of something. Damn, I'm a little stupid. How could I forget such an important thing? It's just an academic exchange with international friends, what's the big deal? The old man was the king of English who had been on the An Royal with a medieval European accent for 20 years. Now, when I open my mouth, it's full of gentlemanly medieval English. Even this king can't pronounce it like a normal American. Let me ask, who in this world has a more standard, more noble, and more elegant English than the old man? At that time, when the old man opens his mouth, with his classical gentlemanly accent, wouldn't that shock the group of Americans? Do I still need to worry about this? This king will personally do it. Cure the disease. The more Chen Guang thought about it, the more excited he became. Especially when he thought about how his lousy English was famous in the hearts of the entire class. At that time, he would fiercely blast it out in front of the entire class. It would definitely blind everyone's corium or dog eyes. Anyway, he would be able to scare everyone silly, especially by Nyangzi and Lin Jingwei, these two scumbags who passed the 4th level in their first year. Thinking back to the past 3 years, these two scumbags would occasionally joke about his 4th level. Chen Guang felt like crying. What he hated the most was something Bai Nyangzi once said. Brother Guang, the registration fee is 30 yuan per semester, but you've already wasted 150 yuan. I say, why don't you treat us to a meal? At least after we eat, we can still fart out of our buttocks and smell it, even if it's smelly. What kind of evil was that? How hurtful was this? Unfortunately, I have nothing to say in response. However, this time, I want to have a change of fortune. In the past, you ignored me, but now, you can't even reach me. You bastards. Just wait to be subdued by the old man's shocking medieval gentlemanly accent. Therefore, Wang Ren stirring up this mess was really an opportunity for him. Not only was it an opportunity for teacher Zhua to earn his work performance, but it was also an opportunity for me, the king of English, Chen Guang, to shock the world. Mortals. Kneel. Chapter 120. The more Chen Guang thought about it, the more excited he became. His body couldn't stop trembling. Zhuo Jingxi looked at him in horror, as if she was looking at a lunatic. Oh no, he's crazy. He's sick, very sick. She had already quietly reached for her phone. No, I have to call 120 first to calm myself. No, I should contact the mental hospital directly. 120 may not be able to subdue him. Chen Guang was lost in his endless reverie when he suddenly felt that there was something wrong with Zhuo Jingxi's gaze. He retracted his soul and saw that her finger was already on her phone. There were 3 huge numbers on it, 120. Teacher Zhua. What do you mean by this? Don't tell me you're questioning my strength. That's too much. Chen Guang looked at Zhuo Jingxi with a rather resentful gaze. I wanted to help you out and save your life, and this is how you repay me. It's 120 and not 110. I really should thank you. Zhuo Jingxi silently put away her phone, then stood up, expressionlessly took out a folder from the file cabinet behind her, flipped it open, and took out 5 pieces of paper. She spread them out on the table and arranged them neatly, just like playing cards. Chen Guang turned his head and looked. Damn, isn't this the registration form for the past 5 times I've applied for the CET for exam? Why is it so precious and kept in the counselor's file cabinet? Teacher Shen. Heavenly states. Oh no, the recuperating teacher Shen, what kind of bad taste do you have? I've respected you so much in the past. I didn't expect you to be such a counselor. You've really disappointed me. Zhuo Jingxi didn't say much. She still looked at Chen Guang with a pair of dead fish eyes. After a long time, she faintly spat out 2 words, Qin Hui. Oh my, it's here. It's this shameful nickname of one-hit kill again. The one kneeling in Lin and City was Qin Hui's treacherous image, but the old man was a real man who was about to soar in front of the CT for exam. How could they be compared? Teacher Zhua, let me tell you, I'm not bragging. After half a semester of hard work, my current English level, let alone CT, even if you asked me to be a simultaneous translator, I wouldn't even stutter. The academic exchange this time really belongs to me. As long as I'm here, there won't be a problem. The other party is also an undergraduate student, so his professional knowledge won't be too strong. It's a competition of oral English. Chen Guang's head hurt like hell. I'm obviously telling the truth, real gold and silver, why don't you believe me? Zhuo Jingxi saw that he was so resolute, and she couldn't help but start to doubt. Could it be that the rumors were wrong? Was he really one of those rare geniuses? It was just that he was usually lazy, and once he was forced to a dead end, he took it seriously and his learning ability was off the charts. Forget it. Anyway, there was no one else I could count on now. It seemed like I could really treat a dead horse as a living one. I could count on him and test his skills first. That's fine. I'll just randomly pick a word. Can you read it and explain it to me? As Zhuo Jingxi spoke, she flipped open a professional English magazine on her desk. She randomly flipped to a page and pointed at a word on it. Although Zhuo Jingxi was a counselor and didn't care about the specific courses, she was also a graduate of Jianhuan College and was still studying for her PhD. The random book she picked up was really a new international professional thesis collection. Chen Guang was disdainful. What a joke. She actually used the weakest method of recognizing words to test me. She's looking down on me, isn't she? Thinking back, the old man was the man who wrote thousands of love letters to Captain Annie. With an insufferably arrogant aura, Chen Guang said heavily, "Of course, there's no problem." Then, he turned his gaze to Zhuo Jingxi's fingertips. What the F***CK? What is this? I know every single letter, but why do they look so unfamiliar when put together? I don't know. I choose death. He couldn't be blamed. After a rough count, the word that Zhuo Jingxi pointed at had nearly 20 letters. It was indeed a combination of terms that often appeared in professional English. But as pirates, we have never used this kind of word. Chen Guang was really annoyed this time. His face was red. Zhuo Jingxi sighed. Sigh, I almost believed it. She was also indescribably disappointed. Anyway, this time, she was going to be harmed by Wang Ren, right? At this moment, Chen Guang grew anxious. This won't do. I must redeem my image. He quickly picked up another magazine and carefully looked at the cover. Fortunately, it was not that professional. Teacher Zhuo, I'll read this paragraph to you. You'll understand immediately. I'm just lacking in vocabulary, but with my current feeling of English, it'll only take a few days. I'll just need to cram a little. After saying that, he really began to read. About 15 minutes later, Zhuo Jingxi's mouth was wide open. She looked at Chen Guang as if she had seen a ghost. She was also a graduate student and a doctoral student at the university. Her English was indeed not bad. It was just that her participation in academic discussions was passable, but her listening, reading, and writing skills were far above the average level. But she had to admit that she was stunned by Chen Guang's medieval accent. If she hadn't seen the little boy in front of her, Zhuo Jingxi would have thought that the person who had read the entire document perfectly was an aristocrat from England. She couldn't tell where Chen Guang's accent came from. She only knew that it made her feel especially comfortable. Even the school radio announcer couldn't compare to Chen Guang's standard and lingering accent. Where the hell did you learn this from? Even Jin Dongfang's teacher can't compare to you, right? Zhuo Jingxi's own accent was practiced at Jin Dongfang. As she spoke, she compared it in her memory and came to a conclusion. Her teacher at Jin Dongfang was far inferior compared to Chen Guang. That was the difference between the light of a grain of rice and the brilliance of the sun and the moon. Chen Guang secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He was scared to death. Fortunately, there weren't any unfamiliar words in the document. He took out the state he was in when he was reading a love letter to Captain Annie. At the critical moment, he reined in his horse at the precipice and redeemed his image. Therefore, he very suavely turned his head and posed at a 45-degree angle to the sky. Then he slowly turned his face and smiled at Zhuo Jingxi. How is it? Teacher Zhuo, my English is passable, right? I'm really just lacking a little vocabulary. I'll go back and memorize the professional vocabulary. Then, you guys can prepare the thesis in advance. It'll be a cinch to deal with this academic exchange. Zhuo Jingxi's head nodded like a chick pecking rice. Passable. Of course it's passable. Then. We're done. Chen Guang asked. Zhuo Jingxi nodded fiercely. Done. After saying this, her face suddenly turned red. She could hear the trap in Chen Guang's words. She didn't know what to think, but she just glanced at Chen Guang from the corner of her eyes. Then, she stuck out her finger and tapped on Chen Guang's forehead. You brat, it's impossible to guard against you. Chen Guang just chuckled non-stop. Chapter 121. Just as the two of them settled the matter, the office door was pushed open again. It was that damn fatty again. This bastard didn't seem to have the thought of knocking before entering. When he saw that Chen Guang was still there, the slightly joyful expression on his face disappeared and his brows furrowed again. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. What's wrong with this student? Why is he still haunting me? What an eyesore. He originally wanted to say something, but he held it in and didn't say it out loud. Shuo Jingxi was chatting happily with Chen Guang just a moment ago, but when she saw Fatty Wang, the smile on her face disappeared. She couldn't fall out with Fatty Wang after all, so she tidied up her clothes that were messed up when she teased Chen Guang and stood at the office door. Director Wang, do you have any other instructions? Fatty Wang paused and decided to say it out loud. Little Joie, this academic exchange with MIT is very important to the school. I hope you can prepare well and don't let the school leaders down. If you don't do well, it will directly affect your performance evaluation this semester. Shuo Jingxi's expression changed. Wang Ren sounded like he was encouraging her, but it was clearly a threat. If it was before, she was afraid that she would really explode from Fatty Wang's words. She might even pick up the Oxford Dictionary beside the desk and slap him in the face. But now, she first looked at Chen Guang and calmed down. She immediately said in a powerful voice, "Thank you for your concern, Director Wang. I also thank the school leaders and Director Wang for giving me this opportunity. Shuo Jingxi will definitely not let you down." Wang Ren was stunned. Shuo Jingxi's behavior was different from what he had imagined before he came. When she left my office just now, didn't she look like she wanted to strangle me to death? Why did she suddenly look like she was given a shot of adrenaline in the blink of an eye after only a few minutes? Could it be that it had something to do with this guy? Wang Ren didn't really understand the situation, so he replied in a muffled voice, "Since you're confident, of course it's a good thing. However, if something really happens, don't worry, I'll be there for you." Shuo Jingxi's expression changed. How could she not understand his unspoken words? However, this was not what she was most worried about. She only thought that Chen Guang understood everything, yet this damn fatty actually said such dirty words in front of Chen Guang. This brat couldn't possibly, what? He had already gone up. This son of a B** starred actually dared to speak in such a strange manner in front of me. I can't stand it. Fatty Wang. What's wrong? It's been a year and you're starting to get cocky again. Chen Guang stood in front of Wang Ren, standing between the fatty and Shuo Jingxi. He crossed his arms over his chest and looked at Wang Ren coldly. What did you say? How could Wang Ren have known that Shuo Jingxi had told her student almost everything? She had thought that her words were very vague, but in the end, she had caught Chen Guang off guard. Chen Guang snorted. I say, Fatty Wang, your dog's tail. Why is it cocky again? You. At this moment, Wang Ren was still looking at the student in front of him as a member of the academy's management. Who would have thought that the other party would be so unreasonable? For a moment, he was so angry that he couldn't speak. His finger trembled as he wanted to point at Chen Guang. However, he felt weak from Chen Guang's ferocious glare. Wang Ren subconsciously turned his head and suddenly saw the freshly bandaged wound on the student's hand. His gaze lingered on the butterfly knot for a few seconds and his pupils shrank. He seemed to have realized something, but he didn't rush to speak. Instead, he looked at Shuo Jingxi with a very playful gaze. So that's how it is. Shuo Jingxi knew what he was thinking about, but there was no need to explain this kind of thing to him. Let him think what he wanted. Little Joie, you're quite clever. Your teacher-student relationship is pretty good, Wang Ren said in a strange tone, but he deliberately avoided a direct confrontation with Chen Guang. Shuo Jingxi's face turned red, but she didn't know how to respond to his words. Chen Guang stood up. Damn fatty, no matter how clever teacher Zhui is, he can't be compared to your pitch-black 7 orifices exquisite heart, right? Teacher-student relationship. You have the cheek to say that. Chen Guang said Fatty Wang every time he opened his mouth, and called him damn fatty. He even tore open his scars in front of him. Wang Ren wasn't a good-tempered person. That little bit of patience he had vanished in an instant. His face fell in an instant, and he glared angrily at Chen Guang. What's your name? What kind of attitude is this to a teacher? Wang Ren said fiercely. Shua Jingxi. Keep your student in check. Shua Jingxi was about to come forward and stop Chen Guang, but Chen Guang took another step forward and waved his hand in front of Fatty Wang's face. Of course I respect ordinary teachers. But you're Fatty Wang, Wang Ren. Everyone knows it, so I won't beat around the bush. Today, I'll throw out the ugly words in front of you. Don't think that no one in this world can control you. You're just a little bigger than a fart, the dean of the discipline department. You don't have the qualifications or the means to cover the sky with one hand. Wang Ren clearly understood the meaning behind Chen Guang's words. He couldn't help but sneer. This Shua Jingxi was also stupid. Could it be that she was counting on this student to stand up for her? Even if you know something, you won't be able to stop anything. Don't be unreasonable here, you brat. Even if you really manage to get your hands on this girl Shua Jingxi, the most you can do is help me develop her a little more. That would save me the trouble when the time comes. Do you really think that you can be fearless in this world just because you have a big temper? You can't change anything. Just you wait, your teacher Zhuo will obediently climb into my bed sooner or later, and you won't be able to do anything about it. Not only that, I won't let you off, brat. In this school, I can really cover the sky with one hand when dealing with a troublesome student like you. I'll find out your name, you brat. Just you wait. Our school doesn't need students like you who don't know how to respect their teachers. Wang Ren stretched out his finger and pointed at Chen Guang's head. Chen Guang suddenly stretched out his hand without a sound, pinched his finger, and forcefully twisted it back. Wang Ren cried out in pain, "Let go! Let go of me!" Shua Jingxi was also frightened. She really didn't expect that Chen Guang would actually dare to make a move on Wang Ren without saying a word. Who the F***ck is wasting time with you? So what if I tell you my name? My name is Chen Guang. If you really have the ability, why don't you let me go now? What reason do you use? Did I call you Fatty Wang? Damn fatty. Did I pinch your finger? That's right, you're very precious, our school's national treasure. Why don't you let me go? Chen Guang was still pinching Fatty Wang's hand. Shua Jingxi, who was beside him, was very anxious. She wanted to pull Chen Guang's hand away, but she realized that this brat was actually using his injured right hand. She didn't dare to use too much force and only said, "Chen Guang, that's enough. That's enough. Don't use any more force." Wang Ren kept pulling his hand down, trying to break free. Chen Guang loosened his hand, causing Wang Ren to almost fall. Chapter 122. Wang Ren stood up. He initially wanted to say something harsh, but the pain on his finger still hasn't disappeared. Although Chen Guang didn't look robust, his ferocious appearance made Wang Ren feel guilty. So Wang Ren held back his words and walked 2 steps away before turning back. Just you wait. Just you wait. Chen Guang chuckled. I'll wait. You wait too. When Fatty Wang finally walked far away, Shua Jingxi slammed the office door shut. She turned around and fiercely pulled Chen Guang's shoulder. She said angrily, "What the hell are you thinking? didn't I tell you not to do anything stupid? Why did you offend him so directly? Even if he can't do anything to you this time, what will you do if he picks on you in the future? He is the dean of the school's discipline department. If he really wants to punish a student, who can stop him? Why are you so naive and impulsive? You're really going to piss me off. Chen Guang did not care and shrugged. Instead, he smiled lightly and patted Zhuo Jingxi's head. Teacher Zhuo, you're naive. It's not me, it's you. She did not expect this little brat to suddenly make such an intimate move and even put on a mature and prudent look. He was completely different from the person he was just now. Zhuo Jingxi was stunned for a few seconds before she regained her senses. What nonsense are you talking about? Chen Guang sat down again and first checked the bandage on his right hand. After confirming that there was no blood seeping out, he said, Teacher Zhuo, what do you think Fatty Wang's purpose in making things difficult for you? Zhuo Jingxi saw that he was really serious and calmed down a little. She wanted to see what he could say, but she was really embarrassed to answer his question. If you're embarrassed to say it, then I won't point it out. But we both understand. But what if, when that day comes, I jump out and mess up what he thought was in the bag? Tell me, who do you think he hates the most? Chen Guang said as he pointed at his own face. Zhuo Jingxi's mouth was wide open. After a while, she said, It's really you. That's right. He's petty, insidious, and vicious. I've ruined his plan, so he must hate me to the core. So, regardless of what happened just now, the grudge between me and Fatty Wang has been sown the moment I decided to help you. Since that's the case, why should I swallow my anger in front of him? Don't you understand what I've told you before? If wolves and hungry tigers want to eat your flesh, even if you kneel down and beg them, they will still rush up and bite you to death. Zhuo Jingxi was completely stunned. Chen Guang's words were like a huge rock smashing into her heart. In fact, she really didn't think that much before. She just felt happy. A matter that could have ruined her career actually happened to be solved by her student. She was only excited and grateful, but she didn't realize that this student's seemingly casual decision hid great courage and determination. Chen Guang, I'm sorry. I dragged you into this. Otherwise, let's just forget about it. Sigh. Zhuo Jingxi turned her face away. She was indeed ashamed. In front of this student, it was her teacher who acted so immature and naive. She didn't know what was in this kid's head. He was so young, but how could he think so clearly? Chen Guang stood up and moved in front of Zhuo Jingxi. He reached out his hand to comfort her. Teacher Zhuo, you're in the wrong. What's there to drag? Before your identity as a student, Chen Guang, was a man first. This is called helping when one sees injustice. Don't give up. I've already stood up for it. How can I back out now? What's more, you're so pretty, you have a good figure, and you're gentle to me. How can I bear to watch you walk into a tiger's mouth? Of course, Chen Guang wouldn't say the second half of his words. At this time, his image was shining. Zhuo Jingxi hummed softly. Her heart was indescribably touched. Chen Guang sighed again. Teacher Zhuo, you don't know. What happened last year is really the last thing that all the boys in our academy want to think about. Even without you, I still don't have a good temper with Fatty Wang. Zhuo Jingxi didn't know what to say. She only sighed. Sigh. Don't make wild guesses without evidence. Chen Guang only smiled coldly. Of course, if there was evidence, would he be able to stay here comfortably? However, justice has long arms. He was well behaved for a whole year, and now he's inflated again. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. As long as he gives himself away, he'll be in trouble sooner or later. He didn't have a chance in the past, but as long as there's a chance, whether it's me or any boy with a sense of justice in the academy, will want to personally avenge that girl. Shuo Jingxi hummed again, but she was still worried for Chen Guang. Alright, come, teacher Zhua. Smile for me. Didn't Fatty Wong think wrongly just now? Why don't we just make it real? Otherwise, I'll be at a big disadvantage. It's not worth it. Seeing that she was still gloomy, Chen Guang chuckled and suddenly reached out his hand toward Shuo Jingxi's fair and delicate face. Shuo Jingxi didn't expect this guy, who was a saint just now, to suddenly turn into a hooligan. She quickly blocked his hand. You're not serious. How dare you take advantage of me? Chen Guang had a wretched smile on his face. How is this taking advantage of me? This is called acting. That's right, I haven't come out of acting yet. He laughed strangely and suddenly slapped Shuo Jingxi's beautiful butt. Then, without waiting for her reaction, he opened the door and ran out. Class is almost starting. I'm going to the academic building. Shuo Jingxi was extremely embarrassed and chased after him from the office. Chen Guang, but she couldn't scold him in the end. There was still a burning sensation on her butt, and her face was boiling hot. This guy. His sneak attack was successful. Shuo Jingxi stomped her feet angrily. Only then did she realize that her current state would cause others to misunderstand her. She quickly covered her face and returned to the office. She closed the door and leaned her back against it. She realized that her heart was beating very fast and her breathing was a little erratic. But what made her even more panicked was that she wasn't angry at all. Shuo Jingxi didn't know that her behavior just now had indeed fallen into the eyes of someone with ulterior motives. Wang Ren's office was in the inner part of the school building. It was directly facing Shuo Jingxi. Ever since this guy returned to his office, he had been quietly watching from the gap in his curtains. He saw Chen Guang run out with a wretched smile and Shuo Jingxi chase after him with a blushing face. He was even more convinced of his guess. These two people really had an affair. You slut. You're as tough as a saint in front of me. You'd rather break than bend, but behind my back, you're getting intimate with a student. Chen Guang, just you wait. I'll let you know the price. Back then, even if I was the one who did it, so what? I, Wang Ren, am still here. Who can do anything to me? Chapter 123. Chen Guang and Shuo Jingxi were not in the mood to care what Fatty Wang wanted to do. As long as they did their job well, he could only disgust himself no matter how disgusting he was. An academic exchange with a well-known institution like MIT, even if the main object of the exchange was only the undergraduate students, the other party was only led by an associate professor. It was just a very informal exchange. After all, it was just a group of undergraduate students from both sides sitting together and chatting. There was no need to expect any great sparks of thought to collide. It was more like treating it as a high-level tea party. However, this was still a top priority for Chen Guang and the rest of the class. MIT's background was too big and too deceitful. There was no doubt that Chen Guang would be responsible for the main speaker and the main exchange. But in addition, he had to come up with a paper of sufficient value. At the very least, it had to be a summary article. When Shuo Jingxi turned her head and looked at Chen Guang, he immediately shook his head like a rattle and repeatedly emphasized that he did not have the ability. The academic exchange was only 4 or 5 days away, and he still had to work hard to improve his professional English vocabulary. He did not have time to write a paper. Shuo Jingxi thought this was reasonable, so she did not consider giving this task to Chen Guang. In the end, the task of writing the paper fell on the heads of a few girls led by Sun Xiaoxuan. There was no way around it. In the top student team, there were more women than men. Just look at the leader of the male team, Master Guang. There was no need to say anything more. This matter was announced by Zhuo Jingxi directly to the class at the end of the second class in the morning. When everyone heard that they actually had the opportunity to have an academic exchange with students from a world-class institution like MIT, they were all excited. No one would have thought that this was actually Wang Ren's conspiracy and framing. Of course, Zhuo Jingxi would not say it. She just happily arranged things step by step. After seeing Chen Guang's ability, Zhuo Jingxi was now at ease. As for letting Sun Xiaoxuan lead the female team to write the paper, there was no doubt about it. The results of the female top students were obvious to everyone. However, when Zhuo Jingxi announced the main speaker, everyone in the class was suddenly excited. It was because Teacher Zhuo's choice was too unexpected. It was actually Chen Guang. No matter what, no one could accept this cruel reality. Of course, it wasn't that Master Chen Guang's popularity in the class was bad. On the contrary, be it boys or girls, apart from Pan Zhang's group, most of them had a rather good relationship with Chen Guang himself. Now that Pan Zhang had disappeared from everyone's lives, the group of people who used to surround him naturally knew that they were not welcome. They were busy repairing their relationships with others, and would not take the initiative to find trouble with Chen Guang. So the question was, why was everyone so shocked and unable to accept it? Was there a need to ask? Of course, it was because Chen Guang's level 4-5 consecutive kneels were too domineering. It made one unable to look at him directly. To be honest, so far, Chen Guang was the only one in the class who hadn't passed level 4. Master Guang's journey to level 4 had become a legend in the class. Even Wen had given him that kind of reward. Chen Guang's reputation for his English level didn't need to be mentioned. Teacher Zhuo, Chen Guang, I'm afraid he. Well, even Sun Xiaoxuan, who had secretly pledged her heart to Chen Guang, couldn't hold back. It wasn't that she wanted to do it herself, but she was purely worried for Chen Guang. She was afraid that he would embarrass himself in front of everyone. Sun Xiaoxuan thought that Teacher Zhuo was deliberately trying to punish Chen Guang, so she couldn't help but blame Teacher Zhuo in her heart. She felt that she had gone a little overboard. Chen Guang had only given up on the school sports meet. You didn't have to push him to the front of international friends to embarrass yourself. Moreover, if this matter were to blow up, it wouldn't be good for the school either. Zhuo Jingxi was also quite speechless at this moment. She recalled the instructions that Chen Guang had specially come back to tell her, and her face was full of bitter smiles. Why did this kid have so many wicked ideas? He said, for the time being, don't let others know that his English was no longer what it used to be, because once this news reached Wang Ren's ears, he was afraid that there would be unexpected complications. Zhuo Jingxi thought about it, and it made sense. Wang Ren had been deliberately trying to punish her. Once he realized that his plot hadn't succeeded, who knew what else he would do? After all, as the Dean of Student Affairs, he had too much power in the school, especially when it came to student management. So, she couldn't explain it now. She could only say to Sun Xiaoxuan, he's fine. He's really fine. You just focus on your thesis, and leave the rest to me and Chen Guang. On the other side, Gaoya, Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend, jumped out to defend her. Teacher Zhuo, I don't know what you're thinking about this, but I really don't understand. Xiaoxuan's English level is obvious to all. Chen Guang's level. Okay, he's Xiaoxuan's sweetheart, so I can't say anything bad about him. Sun Xiaoxuan fiercely poked Gaoya's waist. Gaoya, what nonsense are you talking about? Gaoya chuckled and moved to the side. When Sun Xiaoxuan stopped making a fuss, she continued to come over and say, Teacher Zhuo, really, let Xiaoxuan go. We can't drop the ball in front of our international friends. Sun Xiaoshuan thought for a moment, then frowned and said, Gaoya, don't think things are so simple. Presenting the thesis is one thing. I might be able to manage this, but the other party must have prepared a thesis as well. After the presentation, everyone will have to sit down and talk. I can't do this well. I really can't. My English isn't good enough when it comes to adapting. I'll definitely stutter. Gaoya knew Sun Xiaoshuan's level very well, so she knew that she wasn't being modest on purpose. She frowned and didn't know what to say. The rest of the class was also in an uproar, whispering non-stop. Obviously, no one was mentally prepared for Zhuo Jingxi's abrupt decision. As for Chen Guang himself, sitting next to his three grandsons, Bai Nyangzi, Lin Jingwei, and Xiong, he was treated with even more disdain. When it came to their own family, they hated him even more than others. This was really stabbing a knife into Chen Guang's heart. This was especially true for White Snake. His poisonous tongue was like a crane's crown as he spoke. Everything he spat out was a killing weapon. I say, Brother Guang, we're brothers. How badly did you offend Teacher Zhuo for her to send you to the gallows like this? Killing your father and stealing your wife, it's nothing more than this, right? You should know that you're facing a top student from MIT, not a 2-year-old kid who only knows how to say is, and I. To be honest, with my many years of experience as by fan of Jianhuan Yijimei, Brother Guang, with your ability, at most, you can chat with third-grade American students, and that's only at the level of introducing your name. Lin Jingwei, who was at the side, only added, Brother Guang, I helped you revise the paper you did a few days ago. I marked the correct answers for every question and wrote in Chinese why you chose them. Go back and take a good look. And, on your paper, I drew red crosses for you using tiny characters. It's too conspicuous, and I'm afraid it'll hurt your self-esteem. Don't ask me why it's every question. Xiong Jinka huffed and puffed for a long time. To be honest, Brother Guang, if something happens to you, don't take it too hard. If you jump off the building, my dragon elephant prajna art hasn't been perfected yet, so I won't be able to catch you. Chen Guang felt suffocated. F***ck, your stabbing skills, why the hell did I unknowingly evolve to such a terrifying level? What the old man pursued was the terrifying pleasure that would erupt after the most intense suppression. Finally, the matter of the speaker being Chen Guang, Zhuo Jingxi withstood the immense pressure and Chen Guang himself withstood all sorts of doubtful gazes, but he still managed to overcome all the difficulties and dangers to settle this matter. In the midst of this, there were people who suspected that Zhuo Jingxi wanted to punish Chen Guang. Chen Guang had to personally go on stage to express his stance before he helped Zhuo Jingxi clear up the misunderstanding. Fortunately, this person was Chen Guang. If it was someone with poor social relations, this matter would definitely have been blown up to the heavens. Zhuo Jingxi let out a long sigh of relief. When no one was looking, she secretly glared at Chen Guang, then turned to the other students and said, then this matter is decided. Everyone go back and prepare well. In 4 days, we will face MIT. When she finished speaking, she swiftly left. It was too strenuous for her to stay in this atmosphere, so she left the rest to Chen Guang to deal with. After Zhuo Jingxi left, the other boys and girls in the class finally could not hold it in any longer. They all came forward to comfort Chen Guang. It was also because these people were more restrained and not as unrestrained as Bai Nyangzi and the other 3 goods. Otherwise, Chen Guang would really have been forced to speak in a medieval gentleman's accent in front of everyone. But in the end, he still held it in. That's right, the most important of the 3 essentials of face slapping was that one must not be impatient. Like a spring, one must let it collapse to its tightest and then explode with a whoosh. Only then would there be the most intense pleasure. The humiliation now was all for the future eruption. You guys are still so shabby. Take out your clothes. How can ordinary people like you understand this elder brother's realm? My English is something that you can only look up to, something that can only be seen but not reached. I'm not saying it now because I don't want to scare you to death. I'll let you live for a few more days. Later, I'll let you have a taste of the old man's face-slapping skills in front of everyone. If I really want to face slap, I won't even let myself go. I have a special face-slapping skill. After a long commotion, only Sun Xiaoshuan, Gaoya, and Bai Nyingzi remained. Sun Xiaoshuan came to Qin Guang with a frown. He looked at him worriedly and asked, "Is it really going to be okay?" Qin Guang fiercely patted his chest, which sounded like a drum. "Of course it's going to be okay. You just need to prepare your thesis. Leave the rest to me. I promise to complete the mission." Gaoya couldn't help but laugh. "I really don't know where you get your confidence from. If it weren't for your handsome face, I would have thought that you were swapped. Anyway, in the next few days, you can make up as much as you can. Our Xiaoshuan has to write his thesis, so he can't help you." Lin Jingwei suddenly poked his head out from the side and pointed at his own face. "Really? Who's more handsome, me or Brother Guang?" Gaoya glared at him. "What do you think? Do you need to ask?" Lin Jingwei had made a big fool of himself. He scowled miserably and went to the side to lick his wounds. His heart, liver, spleen, and kidneys all hurt. Sun Xiaoshuan could only sigh in the end. She also felt that it was strange. If it had been someone else, they might not have believed that Qin Guang could do it. But just now, when she saw Qin Guang's confident expression, she actually felt that he could do it. The Qin Guang she knew had never disappointed her. When the two sides separated, Sun Xiaoshuan suddenly remembered what Gaoya had said. She scolded, "Gaoya, how could you say that in front of Mr. Zhua? What do you mean by Qin Guang is my sweetheart?" Gaoya chuckled. "Xiaoshuan, you don't understand. I'm helping you." Sun Xiaoshuan was even more confused. "What are you helping me with? Although we're university students now, it's not good to say that in front of a teacher, right?" Gaoya didn't explain further to her. Instead, she put on an unfathomable look. She thought to herself, "Xiaoshuan, as your sister, I'm really trying my best to help you. But in the end, you still have to fight for these things yourself. You can't see clearly because you're closely involved, but as a bystander, I can see clearly." Although she didn't know what had happened between Qin Guang and Mr. Zhua that morning, there was something wrong with the relationship between the two of them. It was definitely not a simple teacher-student relationship. Chapter 125. The farce that happened in the Department of Environmental Science reached Wang Ren's ears that afternoon. Qin Guang hid it from everyone, and Wang Ren fell for it without hesitation. Lying on the leather swivel chair, Wang Ren took a deep drag on his cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. He muttered, "Interesting, this Shui Jingxi is really interesting. Are you purposely throwing caution to the wind?" They actually arranged for a student who was famous in the academy for 5 consecutive kneels in the 4th level to be the main speaker. Letting that useless student be the main speaker. Thinking of the arrogant and despotic student that day, Wang Ren gritted his teeth in hatred. After asking around, he found out that this guy was indeed famous in the school. First, he was a LV4 student. Second, Qin Guang even beat up another rich kid that Wang Ren knew, Pan Jiang, and sent him to the hospital a few days ago. Unfortunately, the matter was over, and Pan Jiang's family did not make a fuss. Otherwise, he would immediately kick that kid out of the school just because of this. He just did not understand why Pan Jiang's family was so powerful, but there was no movement after the matter. Instead, Pan Jiang himself even dropped out of school. Wang Ren only guessed and suspected for a moment. He was worried that Chen Guang was so arrogant that he might have a backer behind him. Later, he found out that not only did this Chen Guang not have a backer, but he also often ran online rentals to support his family. He was definitely a poor kid, so he completely let his guard down. "You're not joking, are you? You want to turn this into a farce so that I, Wang Ren, can't find a way out? You want to disgust me? Don't mess around. How can I be hurt because of such a small matter? The one who will be unlucky is you. Shua Jingxi. How can you be so naive? And Chen Guang, who gave you the courage to talk back to me so unscrupulously? Do you really think that I, Wang Ren, the Dean of Student Affairs, can't do anything to you? I have 10,000 ways to make you regret what you did." Wang Ren couldn't help but feel smug. Previously, he was worried that Zhuo Jingxi was a stubborn person who wouldn't budge under the carrot or the stick. That was why he came up with this plan. He wanted to let her know how powerful he was and let her understand that in this academy, he, Wang Ren, had more power than Zhuo Jingxi could imagine. This was only the first step in Wang Ren's series of actions. Now, she was digging her own grave by letting a person who didn't understand English go up and embarrass herself. She was dead meat. Just to my liking. As long as Zhuo Jingxi made a major mistake in receiving the MIT academic exchange team, then he would use this matter to force Zhuo Jingxi into a corner step by step. At that time, she would only have two choices, scram or submit. For a young woman who wanted to make a name for herself, this was a painful and helpless choice. In fact, your family's affairs left you with no choice at all, right? Zhuo Jingxi, you're already mine. In the next few days, all the students in the environmental science department entered a state of working around the clock. When there was a class, of course, they would go to class. When there was no class, the female geniuses would gather together and work hard on their thesis. Girls always liked to group together. Even girls with relatively average grades were pulled together. They couldn't embarrass themselves. No matter how unreliable the main speaker was, the girls had to hold back their anger. They couldn't let anything go wrong with their thesis. As for the other boys, although they were not clearly assigned tasks, they didn't want to let go of this rare opportunity to get closer to the girls. Otherwise, would they really be single for the rest of their lives? They were about to graduate, but there were still so many bachelors in the class. Everyone was anxious. The other faculties in the academy, especially the hungry wolves of the civil engineering faculty, are eyeing the 15 golden flowers of the environmental science faculty covetously. They are absolutely irreconcilable. They couldn't let the fertile water flow into the fields of outsiders. They had to fight for their dignity. Therefore, as long as they said that they were preparing a thesis, regardless of whether it was a boy or a girl, they would swarm together. They could only hate the fact that they couldn't follow them into the girls' dorms at night and continue to fight under the lights. Those who needed to prepare the materials prepared the materials, and those who needed to write a chapter wrote a chapter. The atmosphere made people think that they had mistakenly entered the Princeton Research Institute. While only the high hopes of the main speaker, Chen Guang, started to appear and disappear mysteriously. He didn't see anyone during class or after class. If it weren't for the fact that his phone was still working, everyone in the class would have thought that this kid was hiding in Thailand. When Chen Guang came back at night, Bain Yangzi and the others took turns to interrogate him. "Brother Guang, where have you been all day? How can we feel at ease when you're not around?" Lin Jingwei was especially attentive to this matter. It was as if he had become the dog skin plaster that stuck to Gao Ya's back, and also the eyes and ears of the girls. Chen Guang smiled mysteriously and said, "I'm going to prepare some words. Do you guys believe me? Believe my A*S. My dear brother, tell me, what are you planning to do? How about you let one of us follow you? The way you are now, we are all panicking to death. We feel like the sky is falling. Lin Jingwei desperately shook Chen Guang's shoulders. Chen Guang made up his mind to hide it from these people. In the end, he really didn't lie. He didn't even go to a sports car recently. He really hid in the woods behind his dorm and read the English dictionary. Of course, he remembered that he was a driving god who made 100,000 yuan a day. Time was tight, so he wasn't interested in sports cars. Of course, he was hiding it because he didn't want these people to hear his shocking top-notch spoken English in advance. In order to deliberately hide it, he didn't even speak a word of English when he returned to the dormitory. Even his catchphrase from watching Dota 2 was translated into Chinese, monkey sh*t. You guys don't have to be nervous. I'm working very hard in places that you guys can't see. No. Xiong'er will follow you for the whole day tomorrow. I want to see what you're doing. Lin Jingwei didn't give up. Bai Nyangzi was also huffing and puffing. Yeah. I'll keep an eye on you. Let's see where you can run to. I think you're definitely going to a sports car. Or you're having an affair with Wen University's campus belle. Chen Guang chuckled. He thought to himself, the one I need to hide the most about my English is Wen. Otherwise, when the time comes, how am I going to get her to honor the bet? Don't worry. If I play games these few days, I'll chop off my hand. How about it? Also, Xiong'er, don't even think about following me unless you go to a variety show. Huh? You're going to a variety show? Are you going to enter the showbiz industry? You're abandoning us just like that. The three of them were shocked. Chen Guang grunted, Son, if you participate in Where Daddy Goes, you'll be able to find me. Let's give him a taste of our newly improved Aruba killer move. Chapter 126. No one knew what's going on with Chen Guang, and no one could do anything to him. After all, everyone knew that he was famous for being unafraid of anything, and his skin was thicker than a city wall. However, the arrival of the MIT people was getting closer and closer, and the preparation for the thesis was getting more intense. No one had the time or energy to pay attention to the shameless presenter. In any case, everyone was holding in their anger. No matter how ridiculous the situation was, it could only be the fault of the speaker. Our thesis must be of a high class and elegant quality. We're worthy of MIT's guests, and we're worthy of Gokyo University's status as one of the top 10 comprehensive universities in the country. In the blink of an eye, it was the first day of the academic exchange. Sun Xiaoxuan began to panic, his heart burning with impatience. There was no other reason. Originally, she planned to take out the thesis in advance and even personally edit it into an English version. Then, she would drag Chen Guang to practice. However, the final draft had yet to be completed. There was still a lot of editing to be done. Who knew if there was a logical problem? She would have to revise it, let alone translate it into an English version and practice with Chen Guang. She couldn't be blamed. Everyone was too focused on perfection, and the preparation time was too tight. It was only a short 4 days. On the first day, they came up with the idea. On the second day, they finalized the outline and started writing. On the third day, they were halfway through. Today was the last day, but they didn't even have the first draft. It was because everyone set their goals too high from the beginning. They made the topic too big. They used the school's previous SCI papers as a self-assessment standard. Those were all doctoral students who spent more than half a year to write. No matter how good Sun Xiaoxuan's group was, they were still a group of third-year undergraduate students. They only had 4 days left. But even though he was so anxious that tears were welling up in his eyes, Sun Xiaoxuan didn't complain, nor did he reveal the slightest bit of impatience in front of others. On the contrary, he methodically pushed everything forward step by step. After all, she just wanted to take out the draft in advance so that Chen Guang could practice. What she was most afraid of was actually Chen Guang making a fool of himself. That night, Sun Xiaoxuan and a group of girls worked in Zhuo Jingxi's office until 4 in the morning. Holding the heavy paper, Sun Xiaoxuan and the others felt extremely complicated. In the short 8 hours since the first draft was completed in the afternoon, everyone had changed the draft 3 times and had changed more than 2,000 words. At first, the boys were still able to help, but when it came to the final fine-tuning, the boys were powerless. At around 11 o'clock, Lin Jingwei became the last boy to stay. He left because he couldn't help much. It wasn't easy. At this time, the girls looked at each other and felt the urge to cry, but in the end, everyone held back. Ever since they entered the university, this was the first time that the whole class was so united and focused on the same thing. Fortunately, it was done at the last moment. Although this paper hadn't been submitted yet, and everyone wasn't sure how many SCI impact factors it would get, it definitely wouldn't be too bad. One had to know that this was written by a group of third-year undergraduate students. This was already an incredible thing. However, Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't relax at all. What was waiting for them was the academic conference tomorrow. At that time, it would be the real time to present this paper. However, it was already too late now. Forget about calling Chen Guang to practice in advance, they didn't even have time to translate. This was only the Chinese version of the final draft. There was still a long way to go before it could be translated into English and reach a standard that could be published or given a speech. A professional Chinese to English translation was not an easy task. This meant that what awaited them the next day would be a complete failure, no matter how well written the thesis was. Everyone couldn't help but imagine the scene of Chen Guang standing on the podium, looking at the paper, and being speechless and unable to say a word. The scene was too beautiful, and they couldn't look at it directly. When they thought about it, it was simply depressing and depressing. Xiaoxuan, what kind of sh*t is this? I really don't know what Teacher Zhua is thinking. Why did he insist on letting Chen Guang do it? Isn't this a waste of our efforts? Gaoye still had a bad temper. Only with her relationship with Sun Xiaoxuan did she not have to worry about Sun Xiaoxuan getting angry. Sun Xiaoxuan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Gaoye, don't blame Teacher Zhua. Chen Guang didn't do anything wrong. Maybe they really did have a special consideration. Gaoye was furious. What do you mean Chen Guang didn't do anything wrong? Take a look at what he has been doing for the past few days. Lin Jingwei told me that the few of them haven't seen Chen Guang practicing his spoken English. It's so much so that they haven't seen him since dawn. They don't even know where Chen Guang went, let alone the others. What is this? What is this? Sun Xiaoxuan sighed. Let's not talk about Chen Guang. Even we don't have the ability to read the original Chinese manuscript in English in front of the MIT students. I can't do it, I really can't. The other girls also sighed, knowing that Sun Xiaoxuan was right. But to translate this article into a standard English version, we might not even be able to finish it in 2 or 3 days. After all, we're not very good at English grammar yet. Sigh. Gaoye also thought the same. Just then, the sound of keys came from the office door. It was Zhuo Jingxi who had brought supper. As soon as she entered, she said, "Everyone must be tired, right? Come and have some supper." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Sun Xiaoxuan holding the manuscript in his hands. She was overjoyed and walked over to pick up the manuscript. She then told the girls to quickly eat something to fill their stomachs. After everyone finished eating, Zhuo Jingxi glanced through the outline of the thesis. She was pleasantly surprised. Even as a PhD student, she felt that the quality of the thesis was very high. Not bad. Thank you for your hard work, Shuo Jingxi said happily. Gaoye said, Teacher Zhua, our thesis barely passed, but who's going to read it tomorrow? And this is the original Chinese version. Shuo Jingxi was stunned. She had just realized this problem, and her heart skipped a beat. She wanted Chen Guang to read the Chinese version in English on the spot. Could he do it? Why don't you all go back to sleep first? I'll see if I can translate the thesis into English overnight. Shuo Jingxi had no other ideas, so she could only bite the bullet and try. But there are more than 6,000 words here, Gaoye said. Shuo Jingxi's heart skipped a beat. She slowly put down the manuscript and calculated the time. It's 4:30 a.m. now, and the exchange meeting is at 9 o'clock a.m. tomorrow. There's only 4.5 hours left. Chapter 127. Sun Xiaoxuan clenched his teeth. It's all my fault. I should have prepared earlier and let everyone translate it into English while I wrote it in Chinese. Shuo Jingxi patted the back of Sun Xiaoxuan's hand. Xiaoxuan, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Besides, the Chinese version hasn't been finalized yet. Who knows what will be changed or how? We can't do the English translation. There's no way to change the order. But what do we do now? Sun Xiaoxuan and the others looked at Shuo Jingxi with blank eyes. Looking at the girl's empty eyes, Shuo Jingxi felt bad and sighed heavily. Now that it's come to this, we can only bite the bullet and believe in Chen Guang. At this time, I don't want to hide it from you anymore. Chen Guang's English is better than you think. I've never seen a college student with a more authentic spoken language. Maybe he can do it. You should go back to your dorms and rest. It's too late now. I'll come to the girls' dorms tomorrow morning to wake you up. Sorry for the hard work. What? The girls didn't pay attention to the second half of Shuo Jingxi's words. They were shocked by the first half. Did we hear it wrong? This is the worst joke of the year. Chen Guang's English is good and his spoken language is authentic. Teacher Zhua, I can't believe your lies to comfort people at all. Teacher Zhua, how long have you known him? Less than 2 weeks. How long have we known him? 3 years. How can we not know what his level is? Even Sun Xiaoxuan, a Chen Kan and Chen Gufo, couldn't help but blush and feel ashamed after hearing this kind of nonsense. Teacher Zhua, your level of lying with your eyes wide open, I can't do it. Forget it, I'll just treat it as a joke. The girls could only pinch their noses and believe it. They really didn't have a second choice. Even if they felt that Teacher Zhua must have been drugged to say such nonsense, they could only accept it. There really wasn't enough time. The next day, almost everyone in the environmental sciences class woke up early. Even Sun Xiaoxuan and the other top students, who had stayed up until almost 5 in the morning, opened their eyes at 7 in the morning. There was no need for Shuo Jingxi to wake them up. There were too many things weighing on people's hearts. Even if they were extremely tired, it was still difficult for them to fall asleep. Moreover, these were little girls who had yet to experience society. Their temperaments were not that steady. After returning to the dormitory, these poor girls tossed and turned on their beds, unable to fall asleep. Their minds kept thinking about what would happen the next morning, as if they were having a nightmare. In the end, it was equivalent to them taking a nap for more than 2 hours. Although everyone knew that it wasn't good for their skin, the last hurdle was right in front of them. They could only grit their teeth and endure it. Even if it was embarrassing, he had to accept it. After all, it wasn't as if the sky would collapse. The other boys weren't much better. When they thought of their future wives being tortured by the academic exchange, their hearts ached. Well, even though they didn't know which girl was their future wife, it wasn't important. Anyway, they had to hurt their hearts first. If they cast a wide net to catch a few more fish at once, they would definitely be able to hit one. Only old Master Chen Guang seemed to be in a very stable mood. He ate well and slept well. He opened his eyes at dawn. However, the moment he opened his eyes, he realized that something was wrong. Lin Jingwei's 3 grandsons actually tied him up while he was asleep. If you tied me up, then so be it, but why did you have to tie me up so tightly? So shameful. Also, what was the meaning of those 2 ropes that went from my crotch all the way to my shoulders? Everyone, please listen to me. There's something this old man doesn't understand. Why am I tied up like a dumpling by all of you? And it's even a dumpling with meat filling. It's the kind of dumpling that can't pass the trial. I can't accept this humiliation. Lin Jingwei pounced on him fiercely. Brother Guang. Don't blame us for being merciless. There are only 2 hours left until the academic exchange. Gao Ye and the others worked until 5 last night before they finally finished the thesis. No matter what, we can't let you get away this morning. Bai Nyingzi nodded his head like a chick pecking at rice. That's right. That's why we have to tie you up and escort you to the academic building. We have to at least let you read the thesis before the people from MIT arrive. Xiong Jinke stood below and did not say anything. He took out a pole out of nowhere. It was obvious that the 3 of them wanted to use the pole to carry Chen Guang over. F***CK. That's enough. Bai Nyingzi, did you come up with this binding art? Chen Guang forced himself to do a sit-up and sat up straight. He looked down and was instantly embarrassed. The level of this art of binding could not be achieved without 10 years of painstaking research. Bai Nyingzi blushed slightly. Yes. How is it? Not bad, right? I'm not bad, you old ancestor. Have you been watching too many movies about Billy King recently? Your shameful bondage technique is simply at your fingertips. Don't tell me you guys really want me to go to the classroom in my underwear and a towel. Untie me. I'll beat you all to death. After about a minute, Chen Guang finally regained his freedom. He had just put on the t-shirt when he felt a chill on his arm. He poked his head out and saw that Lin Jingwei had taken out a prop handcuff and was handcuffing himself and Chen Guang at the same time. Brother Guang, don't look at me like you want to eat me alive. I haven't showered in a few days. Now that things have come to this, as your life and death friend, I will definitely not let you have any chance to escape at the last minute. Anyway, if it were someone else, they would also end up in the dark. After thinking about it, as a family, we should send you to the execution ground. That would be more worthy of the hard work of the others. We won't say a word about righteousness before family. Anyway, let's hurry and meet up with class rep Sun and the others. Teacher Zhua arrived early in the morning. Time is of the essence. Lin Jingwei said with a resolute tone. Chen Guang's face darkened. No wonder these scumbags were guarding against him like a thief early in the morning. They were afraid that he would run away. What kind of person do you think I am? I, Chen Guang, am a responsible person. I dare to do what I do. My words carry enormous weight. I told you to leave this matter to me, and I will definitely do it well. Can you not give me this kind of bullsh**t situation? Bai Nyingzi grabbed Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei's hands, which were handcuffed together, and raised them to the sky. Oh yeah. Congratulations to Chen Guang for winning this year's international lying contest. He only said one sentence. Get lost. Don't touch my right hand. I'm a wounded person. No matter how uncertain everyone was, 10 minutes later, Chen Guang and the others finally stood in the classroom of the school building. Lin Jingwei was still handcuffed to him, but Xiong didn't follow. He went to buy breakfast for everyone. Chapter 128. At that moment, Gao Yu looked at Chen Guang with an unfriendly expression. Even though she knew that it would put her best friend, Sun Xiaoxuan, in a difficult position, she couldn't force a sincere smile. The other girls were more restrained than Gao Yu, but they all had dark circles under their eyes. They looked tired, sleepy, and disappointed, and they couldn't even lift their spirits. Although Shuo Jingxi was confident in her heart, that was in the past. Now that she was looking at this high-quality Chinese thesis, she was no longer confident. An undergraduate student had less than 2 hours to prepare, and he had to take a Chinese paper to an academic exchange with a guest from MIT. Just thinking about it made one's scalp go numb. It was like a fantasy. No matter how good Chen Guang's spoken English was, Shuo Jingxi couldn't forget the look on his face that day when he was confused by the long list of professional terms. However, she also knew that Chen Guang hadn't been idle these past few days. Others might have no idea where Chen Guang was hiding, but Shuo Jingxi would help him change his bandages every day. She would also ask about his progress every day, and she even tested him a few times. His professional English had truly improved swiftly. It's all my fault. Sun Xiaoxuan was still blaming himself. I was too slow and wasted everyone's time. I apologize. As she spoke, tears began to roll down her cheeks again. Seeing this scene, Chen Guang immediately cried out, "Oh, my little Xuan, my squad monitor's son. Don't cry. This isn't the end of the line yet. Didn't you guys get the paper out? In short, leave the rest to me." Sun Xiaoxuan's heart almost stopped when he heard Chen Guang call him Little Sunday. He smiled through his tears and patted Chen Guang's chest. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Gao Yu, who was watching from the side, rolled her eyes. She thought to herself, "My sister, you two are in public, and at such a critical moment. Can't you be more serious? Xiaoxuan, did you give Chen Guang a whole pot of magic potion? You were still crying a second ago, but in the blink of an eye, you've entered the state of a shy young lady. Alright, Chen Guang. Although I don't know where you got your confidence from, and we don't know what level you're at right now, since things have already come to this point, we won't have much hope even if it's us. In any case, do your best." Gao Yu represented the other girls and expressed their stance. "Let's try everything we can. According to the theory of negative and negative is positive, dying twice in a row might really bring us back to life." Looking at Sun Xiaoxuan and Chen Guang's actions, Shuo Jingxi's eyes flashed with a profound light. However, she did not say anything else. She handed the paper to Chen Guang and said, "Chen Guang, take a look at this paper first. Time is tight, and there's no time for you to practice. All right. You guys, hurry up and take a good rest on the table. At least get rid of the dark circles on your eyes. Otherwise, when you meet your international friends later, they will think that our country is suffering from famine. Anyway, I'll give you guys a hint. Today is the day that I, the 4th level and 5th level, lose to Chen Guang and make a comeback. All you have to do is hold your breath. Next, it's time to witness a miracle. Brothers and sisters, please trust me this once. I won't say anything more than that. I can only tell you that if I screw this up, God will punish me to be a bachelor for the rest of my life. That's a vicious oath, isn't it?" At this moment, Chen Guang felt that it's about time for him to hide it. He initially wanted to keep it a secret, but he couldn't help feeling apologetic when he saw how these people were crying and losing their confidence. It was time to give everyone a little bit of hope, to let them know that believing in Brother Guang wasn't a mistake. Chen Guang's resolute words stunned everyone. Even though many of them thought that he was joking, they couldn't deny the sincerity on his face. His image was too brilliant and convincing. They couldn't help but believe it. Brother Guang. Really? Lin Jingwei tilted his head and looked at Chen Guang with a look of disbelief. Chen Guang nodded heavily. Of course. All right. Brothers, we believe in you. In an instant, the atmosphere in the classroom was filled with confidence. Everyone's fighting spirit was actually roused. Go! Go, Chen Guang! Gao Yi seemed to have a screw loose in her brain as she clenched her fists and shouted. The others did the same. The cheers in the classroom rose and fell one after another. Chen Guang was touched. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your trust. I won't let you down. Believe in me. He was about to grab his notebook. His right hand was injured, so he raised his left hand. Shaolin, can you uncuff me first? How am I supposed to prepare like this? Lin Jingwei nodded heavily. At this moment, everyone was no longer worried that he would run away. Oh my God. I dropped the key. You're a fool who can't do anything right. Because Lin Jingwei had made a rare mistake, he had wasted another 10 minutes of precious time. There was no way he could find the key, and he wasn't Zhang Shichao anyway. Luckily, these were prop handcuffs. The material and workmanship were not that exquisite. Xiong Er, who had brought lunch, picked up a pebble by Yuanming Lake and broke the thin, inferior metal chain in the middle. The remaining half of the chain looked like a bracelet, but it was rather shabby. In the end, Chen Guang did not prepare in front of everyone. Instead, he took the paper, the Professional English Dictionary, and the pink, heart-shaped electronic dictionary that Sun Xiaoxuan gave him. He ran to Yuanming Lake alone. He had already kept it a secret until now, so Chen Guang felt that he could not let it go to waste. There was also another risk. Although what he had said just now was very high and mighty, there was actually nothing substantial at all. But if that group of people found out before the official academic exchange that he really did have that ability, and that he was just pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, then he would be beaten black and blue on the spot by that group of people. For the sake of personal safety, he should maintain the mystery until the very last moment. When the matter was settled, he would tell the truth in the name of hiding it from Fatty Wang. Then he would tell everyone about Fatty Wang's real conspiracy. Needless to say, Fatty Wang would be the scapegoat no matter what. Sitting alone on a chair by Yuanming Lake, Chen Guang carefully scanned the valuable paper. Whenever he found unfamiliar professional terms, he would immediately take notes in a small notebook next to him. His bandaged hand was still in pain from pulling the wound, but he had completely forgotten about it. He had really worked hard these past few days. He had almost gone through the thick stack of professional English vocabulary. Now, he was sharpening his gun at the last minute. He picked out all the words that might cause him to screw up in order to memorize them. It could be said that they were well prepared. After he was done, he looked at the time. Oh, it was almost 8:30 p.m. He counted the unfamiliar terms in the notebook. There were not many, only around 30 or 40 words. This was a small case. After going through everything in his mind, Chen Guang stood up. It was time. F*King MIT. F*King Fatty Wang. I'm going to kneel. Chapter 129. The venue for the academic exchange was in the second conference room of the college building. There were no banners or red lanterns. After all, the other party was just an associate professor leading a group of undergraduate students. It was not that high of a standard. Even if you are from MIT, in the eyes of ordinary students, but in the eyes of the leadership of Gokyo University, we will send people of the same level to receive the other party. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology is very impressive, but our Wujing University is also one of the top universities in the country. We can't prepare too much for an associate professor and ruin the reputation of our Huaxia University. Therefore, they directly sent Wang Ren, an administrative staff of the college, and Zhuo Jingxi, an undergraduate counselor, to be responsible for the reception. It was almost official enough. Of course, the graduate school should at least show up, but this time, wasn't it Wang Ren who played a trick? However, this was not the effect that Wang Ren wanted to achieve. After spending a little effort, he actually managed to pull a vice president of the academy to the meeting. To put it nicely, he said that the leader would be personally present to boost the confidence of the young employees who had just started working not long ago. Of course, the deputy dean would not easily believe Fatty Wang's nonsense, but he really did not have anything else to do today. Wang Ren was also very respectful to him in the past. Although he felt that this guy was guilty, it was really difficult to refuse his hospitality, so he really followed him. When he entered the door, he even gave Zhuo Jingxi a few words of encouragement, then sat down on the deputy chair of the conference room, as if he really wanted to support Zhuo Jingxi. How could Zhuo Jingxi not understand Fatty Wang's cunning mind? Wasn't he hoping that she would fall a little harder this time? Teacher Zhuo, how is it? When are they coming? Chen Guang entered the conference room at about 8:45. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Fatty Wang and the deputy dean he had some impression of sitting next to the chair. He frowned slightly, but ignored Fatty Wang. Instead, he pulled Zhuo Jingxi and asked. Zhuo Jingxi looked at her watch. I just contacted Associate Professor Schmidt. They will arrive at 9 sharp. When did these two grandsons come? Chen Guang quietly pointed at Fatty Wang and the deputy dean next to him. Zhuo Jingxi rolled her eyes at him. What are you talking about? Don't talk about Director Han like that. Chen Guang snorted, being so close to Fatty Wang, they must be jackals of the same lair. How can they be anything good? Wasn't their purpose for coming here simple enough? Aren't they just waiting to see us embarrass ourselves? Don't worry about them. If you're afraid of being affected, go to my office and rest. I'll get someone to call you over. I'll wait outside the academy building first. Forget it, I'll go help. Chen Guang shook his head and refused. Instead, he helped Sun Xiaoxuan by placing bottles of mineral water in every corner of the conference room. This squad leader's son really had a tiring life. The circles under his eyes were so dark that ink could be squeezed out, but he was still stubbornly holding on. It was 9:00 sharp, and the teachers and students of MIT, led by Schmidt, appeared outside the school building on time, neither too early nor too late. Zhuo Jingxi, who had been waiting here for a long time, immediately walked up and chatted with Professor Schmidt. The other party seemed to know Chinese etiquette very well. He didn't make any awkward gestures like hugging first when they met. He just shook hands with Zhuo Jingxi. Behind Schmidt were about a dozen young students, both male and female. They looked no different from the Chinese, with noses and eyes. Zhuo Jingxi led them all the way inside and into the conference room. Wang Ren and Deputy Director Han stood up together and represented the academy to have a warm conversation with Schmidt as a form of welcome. As the student representative, Chen Guang was not in a hurry to be pushed to the front stage. It was Associate Professor Schmidt who went up to the podium and roughly explained the purpose of his team this time. Brother Guang, to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. Bai Nyangzi secretly looked at the group of foreign top students. He hid his hand under the table and pulled on Chen Guang's clothes. Chen Guang stepped on his foot and said, "Don't King interrupt my thoughts. I'm busy." Oh. Bai Nyangzi turned his head back with a disappointed face. He had a lot of thoughts but no one to share them with. What are you disappointed about? Although he didn't want to admit it, Chen Guang was indeed interested. Bai Nyingzi immediately became energetic and said, I thought the top students from MIT looked scary. Now that I see them, they don't seem to be that big of a deal. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. He thought that this guy really had something to say, but he didn't expect him to talk nonsense. What else? What do you think it should be? Did the people from MIT have to be monsters with 3 heads, 6 arms, and 8 eyes? We're university students of the new era. Can't we have normal brain circuits? Chen Guang and Bai Nyingzi were talking softly, but Associate Professor Schmidt didn't notice them. He was in high spirits as he introduced the purpose of his visit today. He took this group of students across the ocean to Gokyo University, with the aim of promoting cultural exchanges between the two schools. Gokyo University was one of the first schools in China that specialized in environmental science. It was a pioneer in this field in China. As a scientific research institution that pursued the true meaning of science, MIT also attached great importance to the teaching and research of environmental protection. Therefore, they hoped to learn from the teachers and students of Wujing University to further understand the teaching and research situation of environmental protection in China. At the same time, he also wanted this group of undergraduate students to study under him in one of the most polluted countries in the world. Other than that, he also hoped to get to know the students of Gokyo University better. On behalf of MIT, he also welcomed the undergraduate students to the United States to apply for their master's degree. All in all, it was just a high-sounding speech, but it was all true. It didn't take him more than half an hour to clearly explain the purpose of his trip. The others might be a little confused. After all, Associate Professor Schmidt spoke too fast. However, Chen Guang understood every word. He couldn't help but secretly pout. Friend, why do you sound a little strange? Why did you have to carry a gun and a stick out of nowhere? What do you mean by one of the most polluted countries in the world? Aren't you slapping us in the face? Although we can't deny it, we can't let a foreigner like you say it out loud, right? Also, why do I feel that you're arrogant in your words? Yes, MIT is great and impressive, but what I hear from you is that you're a superior inspecting your subordinates to see how they're doing. Don't look down on us. The whole class held their breath, as if they didn't even dare to breathe heavily, for fear that their breathing would disturb Chen Guang. Even Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei, and the others, who had been given a boost by Chen Guang, were still thinking of Chen Guang's tragic scene of kneeling in front of the level 4 gate. They only hoped that the gods would bless them, and that the heavens would send down a bolt of lightning, so that Chen Guang would become an English expert on the spot. Although Zhuo Jingxi was confident in her heart, she couldn't be at ease until the dust settled. What's more, Wang Ren was still pulling Vice President Han to sit below the stage. If something really happened, she would immediately explode. Looking at Chen Guang, Wang Ren wore a profound smile on his face. He was truly curious to see what Zhuo Jingxi could achieve by throwing away the jar. Brat, you want to stand up for Zhuo Jingxi? You can't even pass the level 4 exam. What right do you have to stand on this stage and be the main speaker? I arranged this matter for your class because I know that no one in your class can take it. Wang Ren turned his eyes to Zhuo Jingxi proudly. He wanted to see Zhuo Jingxi's expression of despair. Strange. Wang Ren was even more puzzled. Although Zhuo Jingxi was indeed very nervous at this time, with her hands clasped tightly in front of her chest and her pair of beautiful eyes staring at Chen Guang, in addition to nervousness, there seemed to be more expectation in her eyes. That's impossible. Where did her confidence come from? Wang Ren's seat was very close to the main podium. He glanced at the speech script in Chen Guang's hand and saw that it was densely printed in Chinese. He almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. This group of people must be joking, right? Letting this idiot Chen Guang run up to the stage with a thesis in Chinese. Do you want to learn from Schmidt and use your mother tongue to talk? Although the whole world is promoting Chinese, this doesn't seem right, right? Shuo Jingxi, is this your idea? In Chinese. Do you think you can fool us with this? Do you think we're all idiots? When something happens, I'll see how you explain it to the dean. Schmidt and his students were even more puzzled. They didn't understand what was going on. They thought that this little boy was a great person, and these people's reactions were too strange. Although they didn't know what was going on, human emotions were indeed infectious. The group of international friends all held their breath. Looking at the solemn atmosphere, Chen Guang first picked up the script, then grinned at the audience, and suddenly began to speak. Chen Guang's current accent could not be described as fluent. As he opened his mouth, pure English with a medieval accent came out one by one. Sun Xiaoxuan and Bai Nyangzi suddenly widened their eyes and mouths. They could only stare blankly at Chen Guang, who was speaking to the Chinese thesis on the stage. Confused. Crazy. Broken down. They were greatly frightened, and they even began to doubt their lives. They didn't understand what happened to Chen Guang at all. He on the podium was too strange, too strange. A person who had basically gotten all of the level 4 mock questions wrong was facing a professional paper on environmental science written in Chinese. He was speaking in an authentic medieval British gentleman's accent fluently and eloquently. Even when he was excited, he would dance from time to deepen his emotions. Translating from Chinese to English on the spot didn't seem to pose any difficulty or obstacle to him. It was as simple as eating and drinking water, casual. At least, Schmidt and his students, who were sitting on the other side, were listening with great interest. From time to time, they would raise their hands and get up to interrupt Chen Guang to discuss certain issues with him. Chen Guang was very patient every time to answer any of the other party's questions, and he was able to give satisfactory answers, which made the other party nod and sit down again. What the hell? What a big ghost. He really wasn't talking nonsense, he was really talking about a thesis. Chapter 131. Everyone in the environmental science class was at a complete loss. Maybe they overslept last night and hadn't woken up yet. Are we still dreaming right now? Finally, Xiong said something in a muffled voice, which roughly summed up everyone's mood. Although I don't understand what he's saying, he seems really good. This bastard, he's hiding it too deep, too deep. Sun Xiaoxuan's English foundation was the best, so she understood Chen Guang's statement clearly. In front of her was another copy of the paper. She understood that Chen Guang's impromptu English level was really terrifying. She pressed her hands on her thighs and squeezed them tightly. Her exquisite beautiful eyes stared at Chen Guang, and she almost stopped breathing. I knew it. You really didn't lie to me. You really are this good. Chen Guang, you never let me down. Chen Guang, who was on the stage, saw all the expressions of the audience. When he noticed the shocked faces of Bai Nyangzi and the others, Chen Guang's heart was so happy that it could be described as sweet to the point of sadness and madness. Let me ask you guys. How is the old man's English? Are you convinced? Are you scared? Are you panicking? From today on, no one in this world can stand in front of me, point at my nose, and say, look. It was none other than Chen Guang, who had suffered 5 consecutive defeats. You guys have to say, that's more Li Yang than Li Yang, more Jin Dongfang than Jin Dongfang, the king of English, Chen Guang. Shuo Jingxi's performance was not much better than Sun Xiaoxuan's. She almost couldn't hold back her tears from the excitement. Thank God. His performance was amazing. It was better than he had imagined. He could actually express such a Chinese paper in English so fluently on the spot, and he didn't make any mistakes in the professional vocabulary that I was most worried about. He really tried his best for me. Shuo Jingxi stared fixedly at Qin Guang, who was constantly showing off on the podium. Her mind was in a daze as she recalled the feeling when she was ambushed by him that day. But this time, it was his heart that felt warm, not his buttocks. Deputy Director Han did not know what kind of reputation Qin Guang had for English in this class. When Wang Ren recommended this class to take on the job, he thought there might be students with good English in this class. However, he was still shocked. He looked at Qin Guang with an appreciative smile on his face. He felt that this young man was really not bad and had great potential. Although Wang Ren always used his uncle's help from time to time to do some **T things in the academy, he did a pretty good job this time. Schmidt and the others didn't know why the teachers and students of Gokyo University were behaving so strangely, as if they were very surprised. But on second thought, this young student's spoken English was indeed very good, even more authentic than them, the authentic Americans. From Schmidt's point of view, this young man's spoken English could even be regarded as an art of language. Linguistics was not only in Chinese, but also in English. Although Schmidt did not specialize in English linguistics, he had a wide range of academic interests and made a lot of friends. One of his friends happened to be the world's top linguists in this field, and he often acted as a language consultant for some large-scale medieval blockbusters, such as Pirates of the Caribbean. Schmidt felt that this young man's spoken English was full of medieval European style, just like what his friend often said. As an associate professor, he even subconsciously felt that the young man standing in front of him was a gentleman from an ancient British family. Of course, the quality of the paper prepared by Gokyo University's undergraduate students was indeed high, which also amazed him. He felt that he had underestimated Gokyo University before coming here. In the vast Wuxia, there were many hidden talents. It was really scary that there was such a talented undergraduate student in Gokyo University. Schmidt was caught off guard, and he subconsciously felt ashamed. Among the people present, there was only one person with a rotten face, as ugly as if his parents had died. That person, of course, was Wang Ren. Before coming here, even before Qin Guang really opened his mouth, Wang Ren was very sure that this time, Shuo Jingxi was going to be in big trouble, and she was going to embarrass herself. Previously, after inquiring about Qin Guang's name, Wang Ren was very much looking forward to it. He really wanted to see how this arrogant student who dared to talk back to him would be embarrassed in public. He only treated the whole thing as a big joke. This big joke would only have two main characters, one was Shuo Jingxi, the other was Qin Guang, and he, Wang Ren, could only be the real person behind the scenes with vested interests. The reason why he brought Vice Dean Han here was to let this Vice Dean, who had real power in the school, see Shuo Jingxi's embarrassing appearance with his own eyes. He wanted Vice Dean Han to directly lose face in front of his international friends. This way, Shuo Jingxi could forget about making a comeback in the school in the future. If you still want to be put in an important position, you must go through my, Wang Ren's, hands-on support. If you are still not convinced, then I will make use of this matter to make a big deal out of it, and make you, Shuo Jingxi, completely lose face and dignity. But now, he was completely confused. He suddenly came to realize that he was the biggest joke of all. No wonder Shuo Jingxi seemed to have become a different person in just a few minutes after returning. It turned out that not only was Qin Guang's English not low, it was actually high to this extent. He said it in Chinese just like that. And in English. This is not the plot I wanted at all. I have been played. Looking at the satisfied expression on Vice Dean Han's face, Wang Ren felt as uncomfortable as if he had eaten a fly. He had put in a lot of effort, and even risked the possibility of being blamed by the higher-ups after this matter was messed up, to push Zhuo Jingxi onto the gallows in his heart. In the end, my gallows actually became a stage for Qin Guang's one-man show. No matter how much pain Wang Ren felt, how uncomfortable, and how speechless he was, he could only grit his teeth, swallow his blood, and from time to time had to cooperate with Vice Dean Han, who kept nodding at him. What made Wang Ren most uncomfortable was that Vice Dean Han thought he had the same opinion as him, nodded, and said, "Not bad, this student named Qin Guang is really not bad. What do you think, Wang Ren?" Wang Ren gritted his teeth, and could only squeeze out a sentence from between his teeth, "I think so too, really not bad. Little Zhuo's working ability is also very strong. She has just taken over this class, and she has already unearthed a talent for our school." Vice Dean Han added salt to the wound again. Wang Ren squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "Yes, I also think quite highly of her. Little Wang, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Vice Dean Han continued to add salt to the wound. Wang Ren lightly hammered his chest. "It's nothing, I think I didn't sleep well last night, a little angina. What a heartache. I, Wang Ren, never thought that I, Wang Ren, would be pecked in the eye by a goose. This wedding dress that I made for Zhuo Jingxi, this time it is inlaid with gold and silver. I have become the reincarnation of Lei Feng." Chapter 132. The academic exchange meeting ended at around 12:30 in the afternoon. Of course, everyone was happy, except for Wang Ren. By the time Zhuo Jingxi, Vice Dean Han, and Wang Ren sent Schmidt and his students out of the academy building, the meeting room had already been turned upside down. "Damn you, Qin Guang. You've kept us in the dark." Sun Xiaoxuan's voice rang out. "Brother Guang, think about it carefully. You've made us worried for the past few days. Hurry up and think of a way to make it up to us." Bei Nyangzi was indeed a pushover. Gao Ye slapped Qin Guang's back hard. "Did you know?" Xiaoxuan started crying when she got up this morning to wash her face. She's still blaming herself for not being able to make an English version. "You have to give us an explanation. Why did you hide it from us?" "That's right. We can't help you this time either." Gao Ye is right. "I support all of you," Lin Jingwei shouted. Qin Guang was completely disappointed in Lin Jingwei. If Gao Ye said *T smelled good, you would definitely smell it and nod your head, right? In the huge conference room, the crowd was really excited. Of course, everyone was just joking. Although everyone looked like they wanted to beat Qin Guang to death, their faces were brimming with smiles. Now that they thought about it, they initially thought that they would fail in the end. But who could have imagined that Qin Guang, who was once trash in English, would stand out to turn the tide? Everyone's hard work did not go to waste. They did not embarrass the Chinese people in front of the top students and the associate professor of MIT. This kind of wholehearted effort, and finally success, was the most satisfying thing. Everyone couldn't help but be unhappy. Qin Guang could also see that they were not really angry. After all, heroes were judged by success and failure. The old man had indeed saved the world today. But, aren't you guys a little too *king heavy-handed? My kidneys are about to fall out. This is a grudge. No, I have to save myself. He abruptly jumped onto the podium again and slammed the blackboard brush, using it as a gavel. Silence. Silence, everyone. I have something to say. Go ahead, we're listening. At the critical moment, it was Xiong'er, the simple-minded fellow, who stood up to help Qin Guang. Qin Guang gave him a thumbs up as a sign of praise. I'll add a drumstick to your lunchbox when we get back. It won't be too late to beat him up after listening to him. Xiong'er scratched his head and said honestly. Oh my god, the chicken drumstick is gone. There was no more food. I will flatten your lunchbox. The old man was unhappy. As the savior, what kind of attitude was this? Show some respect to the savior. Let me ask you one thing. Think back to the time when you mocked me for not being able to pass the 4th level. How arrogant were you? How excessive. My fragile little heart has been trampled by you over and over again, and it has been trampled to the point of being broken into pieces. I purposely hid it from you. I wanted to give you a big surprise today. Now, think again, look again. Do you feel that your faces are in pain? Did I slap your faces until they are swollen? Don't you feel ashamed? Since you are heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. Originally, I didn't want to go all the way with this face-slapping plan, but you forced me to do it. If I had a choice, I would also want to be a good person, but you didn't cherish the opportunity. Beat him up. Although the price of courting death was painful, Chen Guang's heart was indeed full of joy. 3 whole years of humiliation. Every time someone speaks English, I can't raise my head. I was almost stuck on the pillar of shame. Today, I finally have a chance to turn things around, so how can I restrain myself? Also, luckily I protected my face, so the loss isn't too big. It's barely acceptable. But after the commotion, Chen Guang lowered his voice and told everyone the ins and outs of the matter. Only then did everyone understand that he was deliberately hiding it, not to make everyone worry for no reason, but because he had other plans. Everyone immediately forgave him. That's right, how could our family's master Chen Guang's character be so bad? Let's put it this way. Although I trust everyone, no one here will take the initiative to tell that damn fatty Wang Ren. But I, Chen Guang, suddenly have such a high level of English, it's also a very domineering and cool thing. I'm just afraid that some of my brothers and sisters will accidentally spill the beans when chatting with people from other departments. If it reaches Wang Ren's ears, he'll make some trouble for me. If I can't come today, then wouldn't this matter be completely over? Teacher Zhua just started working, and she already fell down like this. What can she do in the future? Fatty Wang, this scum, is very poisonous. Chen Guang only said a few words lightly, but Fatty Wang immediately took the blame. Of course, what Chen Guang said was not a single word of falsehood. In the academy, Wang Ren really did have such a reputation. F***ck. Wang Ren, this scum. I can't stand it anymore. I'm going to beat him to death. Xiong'er was really irritable. He was the first to jump out. I thought he really restrained himself. No, I absolutely can't let this bastard continue to harm the girls in our academy. Save it. Save it. You still have a big mistake on your record. If you spit on him, it'll be enough for him to expel you. Chen Guang and the others hurriedly pulled him back. Xiong'er exploded and roared, if I expel him, then I'll expel him. I don't want to go to this broken school anymore. I'm afraid of him. I'm a fierce tiger by Mu Donjiang. I've never been afraid of anyone. Hee, when the first semester started, we saw your father. He's Wusong by Mu Donjiang, your father, Xiong'er. At the mention of his father, Xiong'er immediately became quiet. If he really got expelled and went back to his hometown, his father would definitely hang him on a tree and beat him to death. But we can't let him act so unscrupulously. Xiong'er was so angry that he said idioms. Lin Jingwei frowned at the side, as if he was thinking of an idea. Gaoye silently ran to the podium and pulled out a black stick. It was the kind of stick used to point on the blackboard during lectures. I don't have any punishment on me. I'll go beat him a few times. After a lot of noise, Gaoya was finally stopped. Alright, you guys calm down. This kind of thing isn't something we students can handle. What we can do is protect Teacher Zhua. Everyone, understand. People like Wang Ren are righteous. Sooner or later, he'll get what he deserves. But we have to be more rational when we do things, understand? Chen Guang, who was known as the Great Master, actually turned around and tried to persuade others. What are you guys whispering about? It's so noisy. Not a single one of you is proper. Oh, speak of the devil. Wang Ren, Vice President Han, and Zhuo Jingxi actually came back at this time. The one speaking in a weird tone was none other than Wang Ren. Chapter 133. Immediately, the boys and girls took action and held down Xiong, and Gaoya, not giving them a chance to show off their skills. Of course, everyone's actions weren't very obvious. They just placed their hands on the two from all directions. Chen Guang also tried his best to signal the two with his eyes, telling them not to act rashly. Then, he raised his eyebrows and whispered, "Don't worry, watch me. I'll deal 10,000 points of damage to him without a drop of blood. I guarantee it'll be more painful than beating him up." Everyone looked at Chen Guang's strange expression and remembered his miraculous method of turning the impossible into the possible. They believed him. Then, Chen Guang turned around and walked toward Zhuo Jingxi and the other two. Wang Ren saw that no one cared about his outburst. Moreover, the way the students looked at him was very strange. He immediately guessed that Chen Guang must have said something he shouldn't have. Therefore, his already ugly expression became even more gloomy. It was as if a layer of cumulonimbus clouds had covered his face, ready to rain and thunder at any time. However, today's incident was a good thing for the academy. Vice Dean Han, whom he had prepared to deal a fatal blow, was praising Zhuo Jingxi. Wang Ren knew that he had to endure it. "I'll endure it. I'll accept my loss today." However, this matter would not end like this. Just as Wang Ren was thinking about this, he looked up and saw Chen Guang walking toward him with a meaningful smile on his face. "Director Wang, you asked us what we were mumbling about just now." Chen Guang stood in front of Zhuo Jingxi and the other two and grinned, revealing his white teeth. Wang Ren really wanted to say that he didn't want to know. However, Chen Guang chuckled. "We were just saying that this year's environmental engineering students are really lucky to have met such a good leader of the academy. Especially Director Wang, we're so grateful to him. On behalf of all the boys and girls in our class, I would like to thank you, Director Wang." Chen Guang chuckled and ignored Zhuo Jingxi, who was constantly signaling him with her eyes. Instead, he stared at Wang Ren and said word by word. Although he was thanking Wang Ren, there was no smile on his face. Instead, there was a hint of mockery that only Wang Ren could understand. How could Zhuo Jingxi not understand what Chen Guang was trying to do? Her vision darkened, but on second thought, with that brat Chen Guang's temper, he had already gone against Wang Ren before he had even completed his task. Now that he had achieved success, if he didn't viciously disgust Wang Ren, he would no longer be him. Forget it, I hope he can control himself a little and not go overboard. A debt of gratitude. Wang Ren was disgusted by this word. Who the hell wants to be indebted to you? Did you really just say that? Who are you trying to fool? But since Chen Guang said it like this, he really had to respond. Classmate Chen Guang, you're too modest. It's mainly because you've worked hard. Vice Principal Han really liked this student very much. Not to mention that he was brimming with talent, he was actually not arrogant at all. He had some achievements, but the first thing he wanted to do was to thank the leader. He was really a great talent. Today's morning was really not in vain. Therefore, Deputy Director Han smiled like a big peony in full bloom. He was very excited and patted Qin Guang's shoulder. He said heavily, "Qin Guang, you're very good, very good. I hope that in the future, in your studies, you will not be arrogant and impatient, and continue to work hard. I have high hopes for you. Xiao Zhua is also not bad. I'm very satisfied with your work. In this month's performance evaluation, I will personally give you a big A. I really didn't expect that because of Xiao Shen's illness, we pulled you over to be a firefighter. We pulled out a talent." Zhua Jingxi was embarrassed by Deputy Director Han's praise. She just waved her hand and said, "Deputy Director Han, you're too kind. I'm just working hard to complete the task assigned by the leader. I don't deserve it, I don't deserve it." On the other side, Qin Guang turned his face to Deputy Director Han and smiled. From the long period of observation just now, coupled with Deputy Director Han's attitude at this time, Qin Guang understood that this old man was really not jackals of the same tribe as Wang Ren. "I've misunderstood you. Deputy Director Han, your words are too serious. Although we are indeed proud of what happened today, we don't dare to take the main credit. This is all thanks to Director Wang. It was Director Wang who stood up against the majority and gave us the task that should have been assigned to the graduate school. We only have this opportunity. We really have to thank Director Wang. It was him who was willing to trust all the students in our environmental science class and our teacher Zhua. He stood up against the majority and gave us this opportunity that others could only dream of. We can win glory for the school. Director Wang. We really, thank you. Thank you. You." Qin Guang turned his head and said the last half of the sentence to Wang Ren. Every word was like a detonator exploding from his mouth. His spittle sprayed all over Wang Ren's face. This bastard. He did it on purpose. Wang Ren's head was burning. He clenched his fists so tightly that the veins on his hands were popping. He really wanted to jump up and punch Qin Guang's smiling face. At this moment, Deputy Director Han, who was next to him, suddenly patted his shoulder. "That's right. Xiao Wang, you have indeed made a great contribution in this matter. I'm ashamed to say it. When you said that little Zhuo would lead her class, my heart was really beating like a drum. I didn't even want to agree to it. It was really you, little Wang, who insisted that little Zhuo's class would definitely not be a problem. That's why I finally agreed. Now that I think about it, I'm also in a cold sweat. Fortunately, you insisted again and again. That's why I got to see such a good show today. I almost missed out on a talent. Very good. Keep up the good work." As Deputy Director Han said that, he patted Wang Ren's shoulder fiercely again and again. In his heart, he thought that he had indeed blamed him wrongly. This Wang Ren had really turned over a new leaf. He even knew how to help a new employee who had just joined the workforce. Deputy Director Han felt a little guilty in his heart. He patted even harder. The way he looked at Fatty Wang was also full of praise and affirmation. He looked very comforted. Old Han's seemingly encouraging slap landed on Fatty Wang's shoulder again and again. However, it turned into invisible flying knives. They were the kind with barbs. They fiercely stabbed into Wang Ren's heart that was about to shatter. Deputy Director Han's words sounded like praise, but it was like a torrential storm of pear blossom needles. It pierced the pitiful Wang Ren's heart full of holes. Wang Ren wished that he could just fling his sleeves and leave. However, he was the one who dragged Deputy Director Han here. At this time, he was still praising him. This cold face could not be shaken off. Even if his heart was already twitching in displeasure and anger, he still had to squeeze out a smile as if he was receiving a lecture. This hypocrisy was the most uncomfortable. In turn, it further deepened his resentment. This is not what King wanted. Chapter 134. It seemed that Vice President Han had not praised Xue Jingxi enough. He slapped his head again and said, "Oh, yes, little Xue, there is another thing. I didn't consider you at first, but now I think you can fight for it. Next month, the Youth League Committee will add a new officer. You have a strong working ability, a doctoral student, and a high understanding. You can give it a try." This kind of words, coming from Vice President Han's mouth, was almost equivalent to a clear statement of support. Xue Jingxi was overjoyed. Wang Ren was completely furious. Xue Jingxi had only joined the work for a short time. If she really went with this wind and rushed into the Youth League Committee, her wings would be completely hard. How could he carry out his work in the future? I went for wool and came home shorn. I suffered a bit too much. It was not a big deal. It was nothing more than a failure in the calculation. But the process and the result were so painful that Wang Ren could not bear it. What he hated the most was Chen Guang, this kid. He was unforgiving and knew how to disgust people. From the beginning, every word this guy said was to disgust him and embarrass him. He even brought Vice President Han into his trap, turning him into a knife in his hand, fiercely slashing at his heart again and again. But Vice President Han was completely unaware of it. Chen Guang's actions further magnified the resentment in Wang Ren's heart. Looking at this guy who wanted to kill someone but had to hold it in, the smile on Chen Guang's face became wider and wider. He put his hands behind his back and silently made an okay gesture to Sun Xiaoxuan and the other students. Everyone almost laughed out loud. Finally, Wang Ren's eyes suddenly turned white, his body went limp, and he almost fell down. Chen Guang hurriedly added, "Director Wang, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? You have to take care of your dragon body. How can the students of our school live without you?" Wang Ren slammed his fist on the door frame of the conference room next to him, startling Xue Jingxi and Vice President Han. Xue Jingxi knew that Chen Guang was about to make Fatty Wang collapse on the spot. She quickly reached out from the side and pulled Chen Guang's clothes, asking him to restrain himself a little. Before Deputy Director Han could speak again, Wang Ren said in a muffled voice, "I'm fine. I've been controlling my diet recently and my blood sugar is a little low. I'm not feeling too well. You guys chat, I'll take my leave first." With that, he suddenly turned around and left. He was afraid that if he continued to waste time like this, he would really lose control of his emotions. After Fatty Wang walked far away, Deputy Director Han scratched his bald head blankly. That's strange. Wasn't he suffering from angina just now? Why is it hypoglycemia again? After praising Vice President Han for a while, the old man finally left. Xue Jingxi was young after all, and she even had the opportunity to become a committee member. Unable to contain her excitement, she clenched her fists tightly in front of everyone. Yup. When the other students saw what she was doing, they followed suit and started to do the same. Chen Guang looked at everyone with a face full of smiles, but a haze flashed in his eyes. When Fatty Wang left just now, the look in his eyes, as if he wanted to skin him alive, was too obvious. Chen Guang knew that this matter was not over yet. It gave him a slight headache. Why wasn't I the male protagonist in some cool and awesome urban novel? This kind of weak villain should be on his face at any moment, then tear his hands into 18 pieces in front of everyone, and then roar at the sky, "Those who submit to me will prosper, those who oppose me will die. Whoever dares to make me unhappy, I'll kill his entire family." Then, Fatty Wang's backer popped out. "Chen Guang. I want your entire family to die." Then, I waved my hand, and a certain high-ranking official with great power stepped on a five-colored auspicious cloud and descended from the sky, becoming my Master Guang's prop to show off. He gave me a license to kill on the spot and pulled over 100 military vehicles, lining them up in a row in the area where Fatty Wang's blood was splattered. Who dares to touch my little brother, Chen Guang? I'll kill him. Thus, the 5 Jing police were shocked, the political world was shaken, and the business world was shocked. It turned out that in this inconspicuous Gokyo University, there was actually such a big shot. Although I don't know which hidden aristocratic family's descendant he is, with such a high-ranking military official supporting him, he will definitely become an influential figure in the vast land of Huaxia in the future. This person cannot be offended, cannot be offended. Even if he kills one person a day, 3 days in a row, he will still be given a medal, a banner, and praised for his good kill. Good kill. The law is set by him, and the heavenly Tao is in his hands. From then on, my Master Guang will naturally walk on the path of a generation's king of acting tough, the proud dragon who will die if he stares at someone. The above are all Master Guang's indignant thoughts, and they are of no use at all. Your humble servant can't do it. But at this moment, when everyone is excited and happy, there is no need for him to voice out his worries and spoil everyone's mood for no reason. As for Fatty Wang's possible revenge, Chen Guang is not afraid. Although he has all kinds of nicknames in the academy, there are indeed not many black marks that Fatty Wang can use to make an issue out of. As long as he is upright and walks straight, he is naturally not afraid of petty people thinking about him. That night, Xue Jingxi also spent a lot of money. She forked out her own money and brought the entire class of 30 people to the buffet outside the school to have a hearty meal. Every person is 50 yuan, and the total amount is close to 2,000 yuan, which almost used up the rest of her salary for this month. But Xue Jingxi does not feel the slightest bit of heartache. She only cares about being happy. At the dining table, Chen Guang, the main contributor, almost became the target of everyone's drinking. Of course, his method of blocking the alcohol is also very good. He only raises his hand lightly. Do you see this meat dumpling that is wrapped tightly? My wounds are not healed yet, so I can't drink. I am now a glorious driver, so I must remember the principle of never driving after drinking. Even if I don't drive, I won't drink. I refuse to drink. Every single moment. Don't try to persuade Chen Guang to drink. He's injured, so he really can't drink. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was standing at the side, could not stand it anymore. He also stood up to speak up for Chen Guang, and even pulled Gaoya, who was in high spirits. Yo, the two of you haven't even gotten married yet. Xiaoxuan, it's too early for you to side with him. Gaoya changed the topic and turned her head to tease Sun Xiaoxuan. Lin Jingwei said, that's right, that's right. Gaoya is right. The crowd made a ruckus, and the already small buffet hot pot restaurant became a mess. Xue Jingxi was so embarrassed that she ran to the boss again and again to apologize. When it was about 9 o'clock, everyone finally staggered back to school. Chen Guang did not touch a single drop of alcohol, but Xiong'er drank a lot. However, his body was strong, so Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei had to carry him on each shoulder. Their faces were green from the weight. However, this guy was not obedient. As he was being supported, he shouted, I'm not drunk. I'm really not drunk. Let go of me. I can really drink another 2 ounces. At least. 2 ounces. Yes, yes. 2 ounces. At least 2 ounces. You don't believe me. Look at my fingers. I can clearly count how many fingers I have on my hand. That proves that I'm not drunk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As soon as they entered the school gate, they felt the strange gazes from both sides. Chen Guang and Lin Jingwei wanted to hide their heads in their clothes. It was so King embarrassing. By the way, why didn't Ren Yuan and the others come? Xiong was a smart guy. He actually asked this. Lin Jingwei said nonchalantly, I went to inform them, but they didn't come. Maybe it's because of Pan Zhang's incident that they feel embarrassed. Who cares what they're doing? I've already informed them anyway. In the end, Chen Guang did not send Xiong all the way to the dormitory. Instead, he called Zhuo Jingxi downstairs. It turned out that Zhuo Jingxi suddenly remembered that she was so happy that she forgot everything else and had not changed Chen Guang's dressing. Despite Chen Guang's insistence that his wound was mostly healed and that he didn't need to change his dressing and even intended to remove the bandages tonight, Chen Guang still couldn't accept it. However, Zhuo Jingxi firmly disagreed. She insisted that he follow her to the office in the school building to change the dressing. She even said that she bought a new medicine that could effectively prevent scars. Although Chen Guang was disdainful, he felt that as a man, having a scar on his hand was a sign of dominance. Why would he need to remove a scar? However, Zhuo Jingxi was a teacher and a counselor. She had the final say. He could not change her mind. Chapter 135. I have a feeling that Wang Ren won't let this go. On the way, Zhuo Jingxi couldn't help but say this. Calling Chen Guang over to change his dressing was one reason, but the other reason was that she was still brooding over this. When the joy of success gradually calmed down, Zhuo Jingxi also thought of this. Chen Guang squeezed his fist a little harder, and the wound on his finger no longer hurt. He replied indifferently, Of course I know that, but it doesn't matter. He can't just fire me because I'm too handsome, right? If he wants to pick a fight with me, he has to have a good reason, right? Zhuo Jingxi felt defeated by him. I'm serious. What are you sure about? Chen Guang flicked his hair. I'm serious too. When the two of them arrived near the school building, it was about 9:30 p.m. It was already dark and sparsely populated. After entering the academy building, the lights in the various offices and conference rooms were all dark, but only Vice Principal Han's office was still lit. Perhaps he had given another temporary task to the higher-ups, so he had to personally work overtime. Vice President Han is working hard. Chen Guang couldn't help but say this when the two of them entered Zhuo Jingxi's office. Zhuo Jingxi nodded. Exactly. That's why I said this morning that you can scold Fatty Wang, but you can't scold Vice President Han. Vice President Han is one of the few senior leaders in our school. He didn't have any connections and relied on his own academic standards to get to where he is today. There are at least 30 to 50 doctoral students under his tutelage. Chen Guang only smiled. He thought that Teacher Zhuo was too naive. There were so many academic seniors in the school, but only he could become the vice president. There was no doubt about his academic standards, but he didn't believe that he didn't have other tricks up his sleeves. Whether he believed it or not, it had nothing to do with Chen Guang. Zhuo Jingxi carefully applied medicine to Chen Guang's wound while stealing glances at the little boy from time to time. In her heart, she was still thinking about Chen Guang's sloppy appearance when he ran out of the door that day. She felt a little strange and didn't know what was going on. From that day onwards, Chen Guang no longer had any flowery words or actions in front of him. He appeared to be like Zhou Wu, Xing Wang, and all sorts of righteous people. To be honest, Zhuo Jingxi was not used to it. She didn't want to admit that she was looking forward to something that shouldn't have happened. She was just puzzled. Of course, Zhuo Jingxi had long seen through Sun Xiaoxuan's feelings for Chen Guang, and Gaoye had repeatedly pointed it out in front of her. Shuo Jingxi often reminded herself in her heart, I'm his teacher. I can't be stupid and do something like snatching a student's man, even though Qin Guang is really outstanding. However, when this change really happened to Qin Guang, Shuo Jingxi felt a faint sense of loss in her heart. How could she have known that Qin Guang had been so cheeky and daring that he had even taken the initiative to take advantage of her, purely because she was too depressed because of Fatty Wang's scheme? Even if she had jumped out to save her life, she still wouldn't have been able to boost her morale. Qin Guang didn't have any other good ideas to enlighten her, so he simply came up with this bad idea of taking advantage of her to distract her. Now it seemed that the effect was not bad. Perhaps it was a little too good. Qin Guang also felt the strange atmosphere in the office. He was a little flustered, and even subconsciously pinched his chin with his left hand to hide his panic. In the dead of night, a man and a woman are alone, but Teacher Zhua had to call me to her office. Could it be? She's planning to be honest, I'm really moved. But this plot is developing too fast, and I can't take it. Teacher Zhua, at least give me a little time to calm down and let me think about it. At least give me 3 days. You directly made the plot so fierce, like a waterfall from Mount Lu rushing down 3,000 feet straight down. I'm a little caught off guard. Qin Guang secretly swallowed his saliva and couldn't help but sweep his eyes over Shuo Jingxi. At this time, she was lowering her head and bending over, concentrating on fiddling with Qin Guang's right hand. Qin Guang's gaze followed Shuo Jingxi's neckline without any hindrance. That's right, this was the scene that Qin Guang had fantasized about when he was alone. This time, his dream had come true. Shuo Jingxi was 172 meters tall, and she was even more voluptuous than Wenwen. It was a hot summer, but she only wore a snow-white professional shirt and didn't button the top button. From this angle of view, the 2 full moons were exposed, and Shuo Jingxi's sky-blue laced breastplate. It reminded Qin Guang of a scene when he was playing Dota. He controlled the void mask and suddenly cut in with a perfect big move, Big 5. Moreover, it was a perfect juxtaposition of 2 big moves of the void mask. It was also known as the double refresh ball. Alright, this was too profound. It was 2 semicircles of the time freeze ball, 2 sky blue hemispheres. This was too scary. This was more than just time freeze. Even the thought of me, the savior of the heavenly Holy Grail, was about to freeze. My physical body was also about to be frozen. Not good, the power that the old man had suppressed for a long time was about to go out of control again. She was so close now, and I was wearing thin Hawaiian shorts. If the dragon raised its head, the sky would definitely fall and the earth would crack, severely injuring her eyes and destroying my glorious image in her heart. What should I do? What could he do to suppress this terrifying desolate force? Qin Guang was burning with anxiety as he immediately shifted his gaze away and looked around Shuo Jingxi's office. Huh? What was that? Why didn't I notice it before? In the corner of the office, next to the curtain, Qin Guang found a very interesting thing. It was not a thing, but a set. It was a set of medieval knight armor. It looked quite new, and the workmanship was also quite good. The helmet and visor were quite exquisite. When flipped, it could completely cover the whole face. Awesome! It even had gloves. This workmanship, this thought, it was a high-end product. As a professional, who had been in Big Beard Deng's crew, Qin Guang boasted that he knew the ropes. He was really attracted by this interesting thing. He could not help but imagine how it would feel when he wore this armor. It must be quite powerful and domineering, right? Amazing, really amazing. No matter who wore this, as long as they flipped the visor down, they would have an omnidirectional defense without any blind spots. This thing looked very valuable. Could it be that Teacher Zhuo was a rich second-generation kid who had been hiding his strength? I've underestimated you. Can I move it and sell it? Since we're friends, I'll do it. That's Teacher Shin's collection. He likes this kind of thing, so he didn't have time to take it with him. I thought it was in the way, so I moved it to the corner. It's so heavy that I'm exhausted. Teacher Shin already called me. In 2 days, he'll ask someone to help him move it. Didn't you notice before? It seems that you haven't been to Teacher Shin's office in the past few years. Shuo Jingxi noticed the look in Chen Guang's eyes. Chen Guang laughed. Why would I come to the counselor's office for no reason? It's not like I'm doing anything bad. Sigh, it's actually Teacher Shin's stuff. I can't turn on begging mode. But this thing looks really good. Teacher Shen has good taste. I really want to try it on. Its defense is 8 streets better than Big Beard Dang's. Teacher Zhua, I want to try it on. Can you take a few pictures of me later? I'll post it on my friend circle to show off. Shuo Jingxi tied the thin layer of gauze around Chen Guang's hand and frowned. This isn't very good, right? 30 minutes later. Hey, just like this. Raise your hand a little higher. That's right, that's right. It feels so cool. Chapter 136. Chen Guang, look at this one. It's so beautiful, just like the general in the Song of Ice and Fire. After clicking countless times, Shuo Jingxi held her phone and waved it in front of Chen Guang, who was still wearing his armor. Although she said no, her body was honest. When the photo was taken, she was even more excited than Chen Guang himself. She looked like a little girl. Chen Guang lifted his visor and wiped his sweat. He thought that it was very handsome, but it was really stuffy. It turned out that there was a layer of skin inside the armor. It was airtight. Teacher Zhua, I disagree with your sense of aesthetics. The photo you mentioned was taken when I covered my visor. It didn't show my face, so it's missing the biggest highlight. It's not the most handsome. Chen Guang was still very stubborn about his face. While the two were happily whispering, there was a sudden knock on Zhuo Jingxi's office door. Dong, dong, dong. It was the middle of the night. It was like a ghost. Little Zhuo, are you still inside? It's so late. You're still working overtime. Deputy Director Han's voice came from outside. Perhaps Deputy Director Han had finished his overtime work and came over to say hello. Fortunately, it was not a ghost. The two let out a long sigh. Then they looked at each other and saw an inexplicable fear in each other's eyes. Although there were no ghosts outside, there were ghosts in their hearts. Deputy Director Han was outside the door. This was not something to be happy about. Perhaps it was even more haunted. At this moment, in the dead of night, a man and a woman, a teacher and a student, sharing a room. If this situation was broken by Deputy Director Han, it would definitely be like yellow mud falling into his pants. Even if it was not sh*t, it was sh*t. He would not be able to wash himself clean even if he jumped into the yellow river. Deputy Director Han waited for a while. There was no movement, so he knocked on the door again. Fortunately, he was much more polite than that damn fatty Wang Ren. He did not barge in without saying anything. Little Zhuo. Are you there? This young man, did he go home without turning off the lights? What a sloppy tiger. Forget it, I'll turn off the lights. I'll talk to him tomorrow. While talking to himself, Deputy Director Han opened the door. Your manners can only last for 10 seconds. Shuo Jingxi turned her hand over and pulled on Chen Guang's mask. With a slap, she covered his face tightly. Then, she turned around abruptly and smiled awkwardly at Vice President Han, who had just walked in. She even pretended to rub her eyes. Hey! President Han, I'm here. I'm about to open the door. Sigh, I was a little sleepy and fell asleep on the table. Sorry about that. At this moment, Chen Guang's hands were hanging by his side and his neck was straight like a zombie, not daring to move at all. Damn, I was scared to death. Sure enough, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Teacher Zhua hasn't been eating more rice than me for nothing. I give her full marks for her ability to improvise. This armor covers my entire body. As long as I maintain this posture and don't move, I will definitely not be seen through. Old Man Han will definitely treat me as the real armor. It was a sure win. Damn, it was really King hot. Deputy Director Han didn't suspect anything. He walked in 2 or 3 steps, smiled and said, "Little Zhua, you just started working. I understand your eagerness to get results, but don't work too hard. Especially you girls, you should pay more attention to the balance between work and rest." Zhua Jingxi nodded repeatedly. Yes, thank you for your teachings, President Han. I will definitely remember. And, that's good. Oh right, about Wang Ren, sigh, there are some things that I can't say clearly. Wang Ren, this person, has indeed gone overboard. But this is the way of the world. We can't change others. We can only try our best to do our best. In short, don't worry. In this academy, there are still people who understand. I will find a way to get you into the committee as soon as possible. No matter how hard Wang Ren's hands are, he won't be able to reach into the committee. Just hold on for now. I really think highly of you. Don't be discouraged, and don't be resentful. You are a talent, and you will eventually shine. These words seemed to be the real reason why Deputy Director Han had come so late today. Zhua Jingxi nodded. Thank you, Deputy Director Han. What are you thanking me for? Your teacher and I have been best friends for many years. How can I not protect her student? In any case, if you really can't stop Wang Ren, come and find me. I will help you think of a way, Deputy Director Han said. Zhua Jingxi grunted in agreement. Although she was touched, she was thinking, my Deputy Director, it's already so late. You are already so old. You should hurry back and rest. Then this matter ends here. Deputy Director Han asked again. NN. Zhua Jingxi secretly panted. This old man was finally going to leave. Chen Guang was about to get sick from the heat, right? Chen Guang was also thanking the heavens. There was a spot on his but that was itching. I really want to scratch it. Help. Oh right, you are fiddling with this armor. Deputy Director Han suddenly said. Zhua Jingxi was so scared that her body went limp. Chen Guang, on the other hand, almost fell on his back. Old man, I feel that there is more to what you said. Can you say it all at once? I was just planning to move it. The place where I live is very close to Little Shin's house. He asked me to help him bring it back. You know how much Little Shin cares about these things. However, this armor is very expensive. It would be too conspicuous to move it in broad daylight. It's just right now. Deputy Director Han said as he touched Chen Guang's shoulder armor. Then, he used his finger to knock on the breastplate a few times. It's okay. It doesn't look very thick. It shouldn't be heavy. Chen Guang expressed that he hoped that old man Han would not finish his sentence. Also, can you stop knocking? I am so nervous. Zhua Jingxi looked at this scene and stared blankly with her almond-shaped eyes. She was completely confused and her brain stopped working. She could imagine how frightened Deputy Director Han would be when Chen Guang jumped out of the armor like Sun Wukong. Then, what kind of psychological trauma would be left in this poor old man's heart? What was even more tragic was that as a talent who had just been determined, her short career seemed to be coming to an end. On the other side, old man Han had already bent down and hugged Chen Guang's waist. He used a little force and tried to lift it up. Xue Jingxi's face was already ashen. She gave up struggling. She was going to be exposed. Ah! My waist. Why is it so heavy? Old man Han suddenly cried out in shock. His body stiffened. He used his hands to support his waist and stepped back. Oh my God, how can it not be heavy? There is a person inside. Xue Jingxi was pulled back to reality by old man Han's cry. She hurriedly went forward to support him. Are you okay? Old man Han supported his waist and twisted slightly. It's okay. I'm old and underestimated this armor. I didn't use my strength well and it flashed a little. That's weird. Little Shen clearly told me it wasn't heavy. As he said that, he moved forward again. He still did not give up. Xue Jingxi finally came to her senses. She suddenly blocked in front of old man Han and said, Deputy Director Han, don't waste your energy. Let me carry it. Deputy Director Han shook his head and waved his hand. It's too heavy. You're a little girl. It's impossible. Why don't the two of us carry it? Carry it? Xue Jingxi's face turned pale. She had persisted until now and had not been exposed. But if she carried it, she would definitely not be able to hold it. What should she do? What should she do? Chen Guang's face was full of tears. Lioli, quickly teach me a teleportation technique. My situation is a little too awkward. Chapter 137. Perhaps the god of brain teasers was favoring Xue Jingxi. She clapped her hands so hard that even old Han jumped in fright. Dean Han, you can go to your office and rest first. I can move it over by myself. Of course, it's too heavy to carry the whole thing. How could I dare to let you carry me? What if I really sprain your waist? Wouldn't I have committed a great sin today? I just thought about this thing, and it can be taken apart. I'll do it alone, dismantle it and move it over. I just need to make 2 more trips. Xue Jingxi was determined not to let old Han touch the armor again. Deputy Director Han was very touched. Young people nowadays really knew how to sympathize with the elderly. He also felt that Xue Jingxi's idea was not bad. He thought to himself, it just so happens that I haven't compressed the report and sent it out yet. That's fine too. This is my car key. It's the Buick MPV in the parking lot below. Hee, there are many children at home. It's more convenient to bring the whole family out to play in the MPV. It's also quite spacious to carry things. As he spoke, old Han took out his car keys and placed it in Xue Jingxi's hand. Then I'll leave it to you. But don't try to show off. If you really can't open it, call me over to help you move it. I have a report to send to the Chinese Academy of Sciences, so I have to get back to work. It's getting late, and if I drive any later, I won't be able to see clearly. After sending old Han out, Xue Jingxi quickly but gently closed the office door. On the other side, Chen Guang had already lifted his visor and was panting heavily. You scared me to death, you scared me to death. Xue Jingxi patted her chest, still in a state of shock. Chen Guang, on the other hand, was huffing and puffing. I'm suffocating to death. Quick, help me take it off. Xue Jingxi shook her head vehemently. You can't take it off here. Have you forgotten how troublesome it is to put this thing on? It took almost half an hour for you to put it on just now, and it will take at least 10 to 20 minutes to take it off. What if President Han comes over again and sees me taking off the armor from your body? What will he think? Wouldn't all our previous efforts be in vain? Chen Guang nodded. That makes sense. Then what should we do? What should we do? First, take off these iron shoes on your legs. While President Han's door is closed, you will wear your armor and go downstairs with me. Go directly to President Han's car, take off one piece and throw one inside. It won't be easy for him to see me taking off my clothes over there. I'll stand next to the car so I can be prepared in advance. Hurry up and hide in the bushes next to the parking lot after you're done taking off your clothes. Even if you haven't taken all of them off, you can hide them in the bushes when he comes. Just don't let him catch you. Chen Guang was overjoyed. As expected of Teacher Zhua. You've thought of everything. "20 minutes later, Chen Guang was lying in the back cabin of the Buick MPV, feeling the bumpiness of the car and the pain of being knocked by the armor on his body from time to time. He felt a little melancholy in his heart. In front of him, old Han was driving while wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. His entire body was sweating like rain, and Chen Guang's entire face was flushed red. If it wasn't for the benevolent old Han turning on the car's air conditioner, a cool breeze would sweep over from the back of the seat from time to time and blow on Chen Guang's face. Chen Guang felt that he was almost half-cooked. Don't ask me why I'm here and why I'm in this situation. I really want to know why too. I just want to quietly think about how I'm going to face the rest of my life. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before old Han also had to think about this problem. After all, his singing was really a little unworthy of his poor car CD. Zhuo Jingxi's thoughts were completely correct. It was only this world that was wrong. The two of them had just sneakily run to the back cabin of old Han's car, and this old man had actually already finished sending the email and ran down. At this moment, Chen Guang had only taken off the pair of combat boots on his feet. Zhuo Jingxi's brain crashed once again. Women, in the end, were still not calm enough. Chen Guang's reaction was still fast. He slipped into the back cabin of the MPV, then silently curled up his body and laid down horizontally. Then, under Zhuo Jingxi's dumbfounded gaze, he gently and silently covered the visor. Chen Guang felt that the look in his eyes when he faced death with equanimity was definitely comparable to that of a brave warrior who dared to face death. After all, I've preserved the last bit of my spark, and until now, I haven't exposed myself. Zhuo Jingxi silently placed the combat boots next to Chen Guang's face, then silently pulled down the back cabin cover. Then, she turned to old Han, who was walking over, and put on a smile of success. Vice President Han, I moved everything here in one go. Just now, the armor was hanging on the side of the table leg. It's actually not that heavy. As she spoke, Zhuo Jingxi pretended to pat the dust off her palms and grinned. Vice President Han was amused. As expected of little Zhuo. We'll see the truth in the details. Although this isn't a big deal, your ability to adapt to the situation is really not bad. After taking the keys from Zhuo Jingxi, old Han drove away, leaving Zhuo Jingxi alone in the wind, at a loss as to what to do. Through the car window, looking at the dim yellow streetlights that kept receding, listening to old Han's heart-wrenching singing, Chen Guang thought of many things in his mind, but none of them were useful. I have no regrets in my life. That was my youth that turned to dust. That day in the God of Racing Cup, little Otto luckily escaped the tragedy of the nutrition pod in the God of Racing Cup by relying on the mosaic. But he could hide from the monk, but not the temple. He could hide now, but he could not hide forever. In the end, he was still trapped in such an unlucky armor. After old Han drove the car to the underground parking lot, he only moved his head from the driver's seat to the back to take a look at the armor, but he did not touch it again. He only muttered to himself, "Let little Shin pick it up tomorrow, I won't carry it home." Then, old Han got out of the car, locked the door, and the plateau red reverberated in the underground parking lot, gradually getting further and further away. After waiting for about 2 to 3 minutes, Chen Guang slowly straightened up, then with tears in his eyes, he painstakingly took off the armor on his body, piece by piece. His movements could not be stretched, and it was really difficult to take off the armor. It took more than 20 minutes, and Chen Guang felt like he was about to collapse, before he finally took off the last piece of armor. But this was not the end. He had to shrink his body, reassemble the armor, and return to the appearance he was lying down in. By the time he was done, it was almost midnight outside. Then, Chen Guang finally crawled forward to the driver's seat, opened the door from the inside, and breathed in a breath of fresh air, blowing away the salt stains left by the dried sweat on his body. He felt that a 3-hour sauna was nothing more than this, right? When he went back and weighed himself, he would lose at least 3 kilograms. But he could not leave yet, so he waited in the same place for another 2 minutes. Finally, he heard the Buick MPV's door lock click, and it locked automatically. Only then did he dare to leave boldly. After 2 steps, he sat down weakly, leaning against the pillar of the underground parking lot. "No, I have to rest. Oh my God, it really feels like I've died once. It's more difficult than fighting with people in the sea of fleeting time. I've only seen 2 of the Void Mask's big moves today, and this retribution has come a little too fiercely." He suddenly thought of something, picked up his phone, and sent a text message to Zhuo Jingxi. "You've successfully escaped, everything is fine, go to sleep peacefully." Although he said so, Chen Guang's exciting journey today was not over, because there was a bearded man in a security uniform standing in front of him, holding a strong flashlight and shooting it at his eyes. "Kid, who are you? What are you doing here?" Chapter 138. Chen Guang took a few deep breaths, slowly stood up, shook off the salt on his body, and tossed his head in what he thought was a confident manner. "If I said I was here to look at the scenery, would you believe me?" Roughly half an hour later, Chen Guang was finally released from the security office in this district. Thank God, he had his student ID and ID with him. Once he explained his identity, he explained the English Premier League match that was being broadcasted on ESPN's English channel to these guys on the spot in the security office. In other words, he translated the ESPN commentator's extremely fast explanation into Chinese at an even faster speed. The security guards were immediately convinced, and didn't ask him how suspicious his actions were, nor did they try to get him to contact the Gokyo University teacher who lived in the neighborhood. With a shaken heart, Chen Guang walked out of the neighborhood, looked at the empty street outside, and then looked at the time on his phone. Damn, it was already 1 in the morning, and he felt even more melancholy. I pinched my fingers and calculated, at this time, it would cost at least 180 kwai to take a taxi back to school from here. Forget it, I'll just take 2 steps forward and ask for help. But according to my years of experience as an internet driver, at this time, normal drivers wouldn't accept an order from the city center to a suburban town like Wenqing Town, even if they knew that Gokyo University was there. Chen Guang didn't give up and sent out an order. Maybe he could meet some abnormal people in the same industry. After waiting for about 20 minutes, he knelt down. In the end, there are still more normal people in this world. He swung the ham in his hand and walked along the riverside path at the edge of the neighborhood to the main road. When he thought about how he could only take a green taxi and pay the ridiculous night fare and an unknown amount of return fee, he felt a faint sense of sadness in his heart. This was really the greatest shame of an internet driver's life. Just as he was feeling sad, a shout suddenly came from the river in front of him. Stop! Stop right there! It was a man's loud shout. Chen Guang leaned slightly to the other side of the road, wanting to see what was going on. If curiosity could really kill a cat, cats would have long gone extinct in this world. My Lord Guang doesn't believe in that. Along the riverbank, they saw a tall, lean man leading the way, running wildly. In his hand, there was a cold glint that flickered under the illumination of the street lamp. It was clearly a murder weapon. Behind him, there were 7 or 8 people chasing after him desperately. Among the 7 or 8 people, 3 or 4 were in plain clothes, while the other 3 or 4 were in police uniforms. The police caught the thief. Chen Guang frowned and thought to himself, with my meddlesome personality, I'm afraid I won't be able to endure it. But I didn't take their salary, nor did I eat their meals. The tall man in front of me looked very fierce. If I rashly made a move and cut this guy, wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? While he was hesitating, there was another change. In the bushes by the river not far in front of Chen Guang, a strong figure suddenly rushed out. Without making a sound, it was like a hungry tiger pouncing on the skinny man who was running for his life. The figure rushed out like lightning, but the skinny man was extremely vigilant. He nimbly moved to the side and counterattacked with the short knife in his hand. Seeing that the situation was not good, the skinny man took 2 steps back and barely avoided it. Chen Guang's eyes turned. Damn, based on my years of experience, this must be a policewoman. No, I can't make another move. There's already a damn policewoman in my life. If there's another one, my short life will probably be ruined. Wu Tong. Be careful. Just as Chen Guang was letting his imagination run wild, a male policeman in plain clothes who was 3 or 4 meters away from the skinny man suddenly shouted. It's okay. Don't come up. Leave this little bastard to me. The strong voice immediately responded, but did not stop. He brazenly pulled out his baton and pounced on the skinny man again. Chen Guang was dumbfounded. What a coincidence. That woman is Wu Tong, and the man behind is Wang Long. Is this even possible? Wujing City is so big, and there are tens of thousands of good citizens. It's already late at night, and I accidentally came here. How could I bump into you? Big sister, it's a bit unreasonable of you to force the scene. In such a short period of time, Wu Tong and the skinny man had already determined the winner. Since the last battle with Brother Scar, Wu Tong had obviously put in a lot of effort. She used the upside-down part of the baton to knock the short knife out of the skinny man's hand. The skinny man lost his weapon and did not dare to fight again. He ran to the side, shook off Wu Tong, and ran in the direction of the main road, which happened to be in the direction of Chen Guang. Chen Guang was happy. This man is really a wonderful person. Since the credit is delivered to my door, I don't want to take it. Anyway, I have no weapon in my hand. He just stood on the side of the road like a telephone pole, not moving a bit. He covered his face with his hands, looking like a frightened person who did not know the truth. The tall skinny man fled in panic, but he saw a young man in front of him. He shouted, "Get out of my way!" Wu Tong, who was behind him, did not see Chen Guang's face clearly because of the light. She also shouted, "Get out of my way! He's a vicious robber." Chen Guang pretended to come back to his senses. He was very frightened and moved to the side, but he did not let go of his hands that were covering his face. He said, "Okay, okay." Then, when the skinny man passed by him, he just silently stretched out his leg and tripped the man's foot. The unlucky robber fell straight to the ground. He rolled on the ground, endured the pain, and quickly tried to get up. He cursed, "I'll remember you. Wait for me." Before his voice died away, Chen Guang suddenly rushed to the man's side like lightning. He lifted his leg and used the tomahawk kick from above. His heel aimed at the man's waist. Pfft. This guy is really karma. He just threatened me and I'm done for. Chen Guang's kick was from a tricky angle, and the force was fierce. It hit the man's vital point. No matter how vicious the criminal was, he would instantly lose all his ability to resist. Chen Guang's reaction was quite fast. Without thinking, he covered his face and ran in Wu Tong's direction. Quickly cover his eyes. I don't want him to remember my face. Wu Tong was stunned at first. Chen Guang. Then, she immediately realized that she was in the middle of a case. She said, "Wait for me." Then, the violent woman rushed to the front and handcuffed the tall skinny man tightly. She pressed her knee against his back and pressed him down. Run. Where do you think you're going? The man had just recovered from the pain from Chen Guang's kick. He knew that there was no way he could struggle today. He turned his head and desperately looked in Chen Guang's direction. He thought fiercely, this brat actually dares to act bravely for a just cause. Wait for me to come out. I'll let you go and I'll be a good person for the rest of my life. F***ck. This brat really knows his stuff. He must be my greatest enemy. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.